Welcome everybody, Stephen Farrell here, Regional Manager with Elwood Staffing. I am really excited to welcome you to this Elwood Staffing Fresenius compliance training. This is a 3.5 hour to 4 hour orientation that is a paid training. So definitely find a quiet area where you can be uninterrupted, where you can take lots of notes and pay attention to the presentation. It is a long presentation, 3.5 hours. That's pretty long, but it's worth it. There's a lot of great material in there, and we're going to have a live Q&A session following this recording for you to answer or to ask lots of questions and get answers, as well as you'll be taking some tests live with the rest of the group. And that's just to make sure you paid attention to this 3.5 hour training that you're about to watch right now. It is time stamped. We are logging when you pause it, when you exit out, come back in, how much you're watching. That's just there to make sure that you get through the training completely, that you understand it, because you're going to need this knowledge before you start out at Fresenius. And if you can't complete the training, we can't get you out there. So pay attention, take notes, have lots of fun. I want to welcome you to Elwood, and we're excited to get you out there at Fresenius Medical Care. I'm going to turn the time over to Derek Cooper. He is going to facilitate this digital session, and then you'll interact with one of our on-sites after this in a live Q&A. Thanks again. Looking forward to seeing you on the other side. All right, Derek, it's all you.
Welcome to Fresenius Online Orientation. This is the Elwood Staffing New Hire Orientation to get you guys started out at Fresenius Medical Care. My name is Derek Cooper. I'm the on-site manager for Fresenius. I do work for Elwood. I'm just located out at Fresenius as your go-to person to help you get hired on. This should be your goal, is to be working through Elwood for maybe 3 to 6 months and then become converted to a Fresenius employee. Some people it can take 9 months or more, but generally speaking, it's a 3 to 6 month process to get you hired on. Okay, and that should be everybody's goal here today. Fresenius needs you. They need to bring more people on. So that's how you get your foot in the door, as you come through Elwood Staffing, get started. You go out, you try it out, you like it, then we get you converted over to a Fresenius employee. Okay, I do want to point out that we will just keep our cameras off today. We want to focus on the slideshows, so you do not need to turn your cameras on or anything, but we will have times when we'll come off mute and we'll talk. For a minute, I'm going to go ahead and put my camera on just so you guys can get to know me and introduce myself. So hi, I'm Derek. I've been with Elwood Staffing for 12.5 years. I've had the opportunity to work in Elwood branches in Layton, Ogden, Brigham City. I've also had the opportunity to be an on-site manager at different companies like Fresenius back in 2014 and 15. I was also on-site at Autoleave here in Ogden. I've been on-site at Autoleave up in Brigham City, covering the Brigham, Tremont, and Promontory plants. And then most recently, back in March when COVID-19 hit, they asked me to come back to Fresenius. So I had the opportunity to come back since March. And so both, Fresenius and Autoleave, great companies to work for. You guys are getting your foot in the door at a company that really hasn't felt the effects of COVID-19. We make medical supplies for patients that really need this treatment. It's dialysis treatment if they have kidney failure. And so there's people all over the world that really need this treatment. And with that being said, we have to make the product and get it out there. And so you should be proud that you'll be working for a company that is helping to save lives, to keep people alive that have to have dialysis treatment. Okay, and with that being said, I want to go over a little bit of the paperwork. I'm not going to be on the camera the whole time. I just wanted to point out who I am and show you. You should have this packet that says welcome to Fresenius Medical Care Environmental Health and Safety Training. So here in a minute, that's about 30 to 40 pages depending on if your packet is double-sided or not. And so we're going to go over that here in a second and make sure everybody has all the paperwork for today's orientation. Okay, so I'll go ahead and take myself off of the camera, but we'll still be hearing me and seeing the slides as we go through them. Okay, guys, today's orientation is a 4-hour orientation. We will take a break probably at around 11, and that will be just like a 15-minute break to be able to get up, stretch our legs, get a drink of water, go to the bathroom, It gives me a chance to catch up on some quick emails and maybe a phone call or two. But yeah, you will be paid for this. Today's orientation is a paid orientation, and there are quizzes that you'll have to be taking. So let's just make sure you're paying attention. You can jot down some notes if you'd like on some of the paperwork. So the paper that we have right now in front of us should say the Welcome to Fresenius Medical Care. And we're not going to fill any of this out right now, and I'm going to go kind of quick because I just want to make sure you have everything. So your first 5 pages after that welcome to Fresenius page is fill in the blanks. These are part of the safety portion of the training, which we'll do the second half. These ones you can take notes on. These ones that fill in the blanks anywhere along the margins or the sides or the back sides of any one of these 5 pages is fine to take notes. You can even take notes right on the first cover page, that welcome to Fresenius. There's anywhere that you would welcome to put any notes. Now, if you are one that has a double-sided packet, then you won't have the blanks on the backs of each of those pages. You'll just have to try and squeeze any notes in along the margins. After those 5 pages of fill in the blanks, you should have Fresenius Medical Care, your first days at work with CGMP quiz. Now, this quiz does need to be turned in, so please don't take notes on this one. It does also need to be filled out in blue or black ink. I've had people in the past over the summer try to turn in paper that had pink or purple or green. Unfortunately, Fresenius does not allow that. They require you to use blue or black ink, please. And then after that first days at work CGMP quiz, you should have a hearing conservation quiz. And then after the hearing conservation quiz, you should have the safety exam. That's 4 pages. Okay, and that one is another one that will also turn in. Okay, after that, you should have a cover page that's 3 columns turned on their side. It says, Welcome to Fresenius Medical Care. There's tobacco-free workplace and attendance policy. That's just a part of your assignment sheet that we'll be giving you at the time you get your badge. After this page is about 11 pages of paperwork you'll be signing at the end of today. You don't need to sign it right now. It's just to show that you have it. The first day on the job, good manufacturing practices. There's spots at the bottom where you'll sign later on. There's signature initial identification page, and there's a part where you'll print, sign, initial, and date. Then there's the pre-assessment checklist, and we'll go over that at the end. Then there's the leaving the workstation agreement. We'll go over that one. There's the hourly policies, including in this packet. Then there's the Fresenius Medical Care sexual harassment policy. Then you have the Elwood staffing safety policy, the OIG government policy, the Fresenius Medical Care confidentiality and assignment agreement, which is 2 pages. On the second page is where you'll print, sign, and date. And then the last page of the signing pages is the Fresenius Medical Care Employee Confidentiality and Assignment Agreement Attachment A. And we'll go over this at the end of what that is and what needs to be filled out. Now, after those pages, you should have another page that says hourly policies. That's the second time we've seen that page, so you do not need to fill out the second one. That's just to show you what the hourly policies are. After that is the pages you'll be able to keep. It has the human resources attendance policy. After that, it goes into the breaks and meal policies, and then it has the tobacco-free workplace, and then the dress code. And these are all things we're going to cover here right at the beginning of the orientation. And then after that, you should have some pages of stretches of how to save your back and how to do flexibility and stretching and prevent carpal tunnel. Now, all of those pages, the HR policies and the stretches, will be pages you get to keep. So again, you can take any notes down on those as well. Okay, so the only ones we're turning in are those 11 pages that are signed and the quizzes. Okay, all right. So with that being said, is there anybody in the class that did not get that packet or have that packet? It sounds like everybody has that packet. Everybody has it filled out. We're going to go ahead and go into the slides now. So I just want to make sure as everybody can see in front of them, if one of you can take yourself off mute at least and just tell me, yep, I can see. It says Elwood Staffing New Hire Orientation.
Yep, it says Elwood Staffing New Hire Orientation.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, I'm going to move forward a couple slides. You should now be seeing the agenda of what is Fresenius, time clock policy, breaks and lunch policy, security and safety, tobacco policy, and dress code. Again, these are those HR policies we're going to cover here at the first of the orientation, and then after we go over a quality management system slideshow, and then we'll do a break and then move into the safety and filling out paperwork at the end. Okay, So with that being said, we're going to ask the question, why does Fresenius exist? What is the company's purpose? I've already kind of mentioned, right, that they make dialysis equipment. That's for kidney failure. And you should have known this before when they talked to you about the company, when you were going to get interviewed and the process to get to this point. But I just wanted to make it clear and make it hit home that yes, this is a company that is making medical supplies for people with kidney dialysis. When you have to go through kidney dialysis treatment, it's because your kidney is failing you. And this can happen to anybody, anywhere from a small child up to a full-size adult. Okay, we're on a slide right now that's showing a little boy with a Buzz Lightyear. He's in a clinic, and they're pulling all of the blood out of his body, running it through a machine. It's a dialyzer machine, and that actual filter-looking thing there, that is the dialyzer itself. It's an artificial kidney. Runs all of his blood through it, it filters it, and then it puts it back into his body. Okay, is there anybody that cannot see this slide? Or if you get stuck, please stop and let me know. Okay. So the reason why Fresenius exists is to save lives. Reality is that these people wouldn't have many other options or alternatives. Yeah, they can be on a waiting list for a kidney transplant, but that waiting list can be very long, and they might not get that kidney transplant in time. So it's important that we have kidney dialysis treatments. They are split up into two treatments to help save lives, and the plant out at Fresenius is split up into basically half, into two main areas. There's the area that does the hemodialysis. That's what we just saw, the little boy. This is where they do the pull the blood out of the body, run it through the machine, through the dialyzer, and then back into the body. They have to go to the clinic. It takes about 4 hours, and they have to do this about 3 times a week. Okay. This side of the plant, they do make, there's 3 or 4 departments that produce this product. So there's the molding department, the fibers department, the dialyzers, and then one that's called E-beam that does a final sterilization. And we'll talk a little bit more about that here in a second. I just want to talk about the second half of the plant, does the peritoneal dialysis. This is a totally different treatment. This is where they use a solution bag, kind of like an IV bag in a hospital. But instead of going in your arm, it actually goes in through a catheter into your body, right in your stomach. And it fills up what's called the peritoneum. That's a body cavity that then filters your organs, including your kidneys, and then they drain it into a drainage bag. It takes about 20 to 30 minutes, and this is something they can do from home. Now, this part of the plant is divided into a few departments. The ones that Elwood staffs for at this time is the solutions department, where they make a sugar-based solution, and the saline department, where they make a salt-based solution. And so those are the two different departments, saline and solutions, which is sugar. Okay. With that being said, let's go ahead and look at a little bit of the products, more of what they are. On the far right, we're looking at the outer mold. That's the shell of the dialyzer. They make that in the molding department, and I do have employees working there. And then we have the inner fiber bundle, is where it's thousands of strands of very fine threaded fiber bundles. And those are made in the fibers department. Okay. And those, both of those products get shipped over to the dialyzers department. That's where they end up. They go into a machine, it inserts the fiber bundles into the fiber mold, and then they get capped and sealed and glued, and then they go through a curing process, a testing process, and then they get checked with quality checks. Both people and cameras are doing quality checks on these dialyzers, and then they go to a final pack out area where they get packaged and ready to be shipped over to the E-beam department, which is the last department where they go through a sterilization process and then packaged and ready for shipment. Okay, now the bag there on, or the dialyzers on the left, you see they're different sizes, F160, 180, and 200. That's because there's different size people, anywhere from a small child up to a full-size adult. So there's going to be different size dialyzers to filter their blood. Okay, now the bag in the middle, that's a solution bag that we're looking at. That solutions bag is 500 milliliters. They do have 1 liter, 2 liter, 5 liter, and 6 liter bags as well. They make the bags, they stamp the bags with that information, they fill the bags in what's called a fill room. It's a very clean atmosphere, it has to be very clean and sterile. You have to have clothes over top of your clothes They call it a bunny suit. It's a very clean room atmosphere where they fill the solutions bags. And then they seal them with these connectors. They go through inspection process to make sure there's no leaks or crimps or problems or defects with the bags. Then they go outside of the fill room to a pack out area. Now this is kind of an area that's more like a general warehouse where you're packaging or getting them onto these crates that then they go through a sterilization process of their own, and then they get packaged, boxed, and shipped. So that is the solutions pack out or saline pack out areas. And then there's the solutions fill rooms where they fill the bags. Okay, so these products are being made every day at Fresenius. Fresenius is a world-leading provider of products and services for people with chronic kidney failure. Around the world, there's about 3.2 million patients with this disease worldwide that have to undergo this dialysis treatment. In the US, Fresenius cares for over 190,000 patients in more than 2,200 clinics. And globally, they care for over 325,000 patients in more than 3,800 clinics. We operate 40 production sites on all continents to provide dialysis products, including the machines, the dialyzers, and the related disposables. So just in 2017 alone, there was 50% of the dialysis machines sold worldwide were produced by Fresenius Medical Care. That's pretty impressive to have half of the whole world market of dialyzer machines. Fresenius is a company that does make products to help sustain life. We are committed to providing our customers with products of the highest possible quality and at the lowest possible cost and in a timely manner. We achieve this by maintaining our market leadership with all of our dialysis products. We follow these harmonized global values, all of our production sites around the world. This is something you will see out there. I'm just going to do a brief overview of the harmonized global values. We are collaborative. We team up. We care about sharing information, and we share and tackle challenges together, reaching out to colleagues both near and far. We communicate openly. We are proactive. We get things done. We challenge the status quo and show interest in what's happening around us. And we make sure we understand what needs to be done and take ownership in the results. We are reliable. We do what we say. We live up to our own expectations. We show respect and lead by example. We act with integrity and in line with our standards every day. We are excellent. We exceed expectations. We make things better today than they were yesterday. We pitch in on ideas and how to improve and innovate. Currently at Fresenius, there's over 118,000 employees in more than 50 countries. We've been developing these products for over 40 years. That's over 4 decades. We've achieved multiple distinguished awards and continuously strive to improve and innovate. As you can see, they've gotten awards in 2013, 15, 18, and they'll continue to get more in the future. Now here at Fresenius, you may have the opportunity to convert to a Fresenius employee. Like I said, hopefully in 3 to 6 months, that's what's going to happen. We'll say, congratulations, you're now a Fresenius employee. At that time, you'll be able to get some of these benefits. You'll get paid time off up to 150 hours in the first year, 200 after that. The benefits package include things like medical and dental and vision, 401k and tuition reimbursement. And they're pretty impressive packets that are competitive. They have tuition reimbursement not only for people in just the medical field or just in the manufacturing field, but let's say you want to go to college for maybe an IT degree or finance or HR. I mean, there's multiple departments out there that you could go into, maybe science degrees or laboratory techs or engineers or maintenance. There's all kinds of degrees you could get that would still be qualified for tuition reimbursement. Now, I do take a moment to mention Elwood does not pay you time off. If you take a day off in these next 3 to 6 months, it would go unpaid. And you would want to call and ask your supervisor ahead of time and get that approved time off. Okay. Now, benefits, we do offer medical and dental and vision for our employees as well. You do want to get that set up in the first 30 days. If you don't do it in the first 30 days, then you have to wait till the next open enrollment. So it is important, if you do need our health insurance and medical and dental, then you want to get that set up in those first 30 days. Now we're going to go back and talk about now holiday pay. So for Fresenius employees, they get the benefit of if you work on a holiday, you are paid time and a half. Unfortunately for Elwood employees, if you work on a holiday, you're just paid the regular pay. At the time of hire, there would be wage increases too. Based on certification and performance, you're eligible for additional pay increases as well. So that is something you can look forward to when you convert to become a Fresenius employee. So Fresenius does run operations 24/7, 365 days a year. They're open every day, all day. And so all employees are expected to work on all scheduled days regardless of a holiday. Okay. And now I want to talk about the four most common shifts. The four most common shifts are the A, B, C, and D shift, and they should have talked to you about these at the branch, and so you're a little bit aware of what they are. I just want to make sure we're clear and in detail what the shifts are and what they pay. So the A shift is the first half of the week during the day. So they work Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So Sunday through Wednesday, they work 3 12-hour days, and then Wednesday is just a half day of 6 hours. When they work in the solutions and saline departments, it's 5 a.m. to 5 p.m. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and then Wednesday just 5 to 11. Now the dialyzers and e-beam, they start just a half an hour later, 5:30 to 5:30, and then Wednesday just 5:30 to 11:30. Now the fibers and molding department, they work a half an hour later start time, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., and then Wednesday just 6 a.m. to noon. And the pay for these shifts, when you work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, it's $14 an hour during the work week, and then Sundays gets paid a 50-cent differential of $14.50. Now we'll look at the B shift. Same thing as the first half of the week, Sunday through Wednesday, but at nights. So instead of 5 a.m. to 5 p.m., they come at 5 p.m. to 5 a.m. or 5:30 p.m. to 5:30 a.m. in dialyzers and e-beam, or again 6 to 6 if you're in fibers or molding. Now they do have a differential. They start out at $14.60 on Monday through Wednesdays, and then an additional 50 cents, so $15.10 if they work on Saturday. Or Sunday, I apologize. And so that's the A and B shift, the first half of the week. Now we'll go look at the C shift. This is the second half of the week during the days. This is where they work Wednesday through Saturday. So when the people are getting off of A shift at 11 a.m., 11:30 or noon, that's when these people are coming in. They're working their half day Wednesday just from 11 to 5, 11:30 to 5:30, or noon to 6. And then they work till Thursday, Friday, Saturdays, their full 12-hour days, 5 a.m. to 5 p.m. This one pays the same during the work week, 14 an hour, and then on Saturdays you get 14.50. Now the D shift. This shift is the one that pays the most. This is the second half of the week. It goes from Wednesday to Saturday, but it's at nights. So they're working from 11 p.m. to 5 a.m. Thursday morning. Then they work Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night, 5 p.m. to 5 a.m. The reason this pays more, 15 an hour, Wednesday through Friday, and then 15.50 on Saturdays, is because these people are working on Friday and Saturday nights. When most people are wanting to go out to dinner and the movies, or to a football game or a baseball game, these people have to be at work. These people enjoy their weekends on maybe Monday nights or Tuesday nights. That's when they can go to dinner and the movies, which in my opinion is probably better because they're not having to fight all the crowds of so many people at the restaurants on a Friday night, right? So it's a win-win for those people because they're getting paid more and they get the lighter days on their days off. So again, this is the higher paying position, the 15 an hour for Wednesday through Friday, and then 15.50 on Saturday. Any questions about the times or the shifts before we move on? I think we're good. Okay, so we're going to talk about the time clock use, the do's and the don'ts. So definitely you do want to punch in when you get to work and you want to punch out when you leave. Obviously you want to get paid for working, right? So you do want to make sure you punch in when you get there and punch out when you leave. And then you need to punch out any time you leave the property during your shift. This is super important. You realize this is for Fresenius employees and Elwood employees. If you're going to leave the property, you do need to punch out to go. Let's say you're going to go to lunch at Jimmy John's or run over to Zupa's. I don't recommend you do that because they only give you a 30-minute lunch. It's pretty hard to get punched out, get to your car, drive over to Jimmy John's, get your sandwich, and get back within that 30 minutes. Okay, with that being said, if you just stay in the plant, you don't have to punch out for breaks or lunch. So that's our don'ts. You don't punch out for breaks or lunch, and because we want you to enjoy those breaks. Every minute of that break, every minute of that 30 minutes should be enjoyed as a break, not having to wait in line to punch out or something like that. So you don't want to punch in late. If you punch in even 1 minute late, that is considered late. In the manufacturing world, you do need to be there early, punching in up to 5 or 6 minutes early. I do recommend everybody does that. That means if you're scheduled to be in a dialyzer line at 5:30, that doesn't mean you're pulling in the parking lot right at 5:30. Then you're running through the break room to put your lunch away, and then by the time you get to the clock, you're going to be punched in way late. So I recommend you pull in maybe even up to 15 minutes early, maybe even earlier. Get to the break room, put your lunch away, and get a drink of water, get ready, so then you can be punching in that 6 minutes early. They don't want you punching in any more than 6 minutes before the start of your shift unless overtime was approved. And they don't want you punching out any more than 6 minutes after your shift unless overtime is approved. So you can punch in that 5 to 6 minutes early, just don't do it more than that. Okay, if you forget your badge or don't clock in, you are responsible for your own time and you must report it to the supervisors immediately or it will be considered a missed punch. And a missed punch means we have to track it down, find out from the supervisor or from you, were you really there? What time did you leave or get there? And it just can delay your pay. And I hate to have anybody paid late. I make sure everybody gets paid on time, but I need your help to make sure you're responsible checking your punches. Now, I just take a moment here to tell you guys they may or may not show you in training how to do this. So I recommend you ask your supervisors if they haven't showed you in training how to actually check your punches in the clock. At the end of the week, you should do that. Let's say you're on an A shift and you get off Wednesday. You want to be able to check all your punches and see, oh, yep, I forgot a punch on Tuesday. It says I didn't punch out. And you can go to your supervisor right then, say, hey, for some reason I know I punched out, but I didn't read it. Can you put that in? And then they can manually put it in. That way payroll goes a lot smoother for me and everybody gets paid on time. Okay. Any questions about the clock? We'll go ahead and talk about meals and breaks now. So breaks are assigned by the supervisor for each shift. Start times vary from day to day. 12-hour shifts, you get 3 30-minute breaks. And yes, one of those is your lunch. Remember, you don't punch out for those breaks. You just take your break and you get back within the 30 minutes. When you work a half day on Wednesdays, you get that 6-hour shift. You work and you get 1 30-minute break. You want to verify with your supervisor just to make sure. They may split it up into 2, but generally I think they always give the person just the 1 30-minute break. Okay, if you work 6.5 hours or more, 30-minute lunch will be deducted. So I just want to make sure that's clear, that you realize Elwood employees, your lunch will be deducted. You're not having to punch out like we talked about, but you do have a lunch deducted. So you need to enjoy your lunch. And one of the benefits as a Fresenius employee, once you're hired on and converted to a Fresenius, they actually don't deduct your lunch. So it's pretty awesome. You're there for the 12 hours, you get paid for the full 12 hours once you're a Fresenius employee. Unfortunately, with Elwood, we do have to deduct the lunch, so it is 11.5 hours that you'll get paid. So breaks that are taken without permission or longer than allowed are grounds for disciplinary action, including termination. I had 2 people earlier this summer doing just that. One of them was taking a 50-minute lunch and another one was taking an hour and 20-minute lunches. That's totally unacceptable. Don't think, oh, I can get away with it. I don't have to punch out. That is totally wrong. They can tell exactly when you get back because they have to send another person to lunch and break. So they can tell they're waiting on you to get back. So both of those people's assignments actually were ended and terminated because of time card fraud and because of taking extensive lunches. Okay. The other one would be breaks are not to be combined into one long break. They're not to be used at the end of the shift to leave early or at the beginning of the shift to come in late. Breaks are not to be skipped to make up for any missed time. Any changes to a work schedule must be approved by your direct supervisor. You can't call me or ask me and say, hey, Derek, can I have an hour to come in late today? I got a doctor's appointment. That would be something you'd have to schedule and have approved ahead of time with your supervisor. And in reality, you guys are working 3.5 days a week, but you're off 3.5 days a week. So you should be able to take those doctor's appointments and schedule them outside of work hours. Okay. Now we're going to talk about language in the workplace. Fresenius values the diversity of its workplace and encourages all employees to respect different cultural values, customs, languages that coworkers may bring into the workplace. That said, though, for reasons of safety, patient care, efficiency and security, supervision and morale, essential business functions of Fresenius Medical Care are conducted in one language common to everyone. That's English. So this applies to everybody working at Fresenius. During your job duties, you do need to communicate in English. This means while working in the clean rooms or out in the warehouses, we need to be speaking in English. This includes telephones, radios, computers, emails, and all other forms of communication. It does need to be done in English. Now that doesn't mean you can't speak another language out at Fresenius. You can in the non-work areas, meaning in the break areas, or in the hallway, or in the bathroom. That's totally fine. If you speak Spanish, Chinese, Russian, German, whatever it is, that will be fine. I've heard plenty of people speaking in German at lunches or in Spanish, and that's fine. In the non-work areas, in the break rooms, it's okay. So any intentional repeated violations of this policy can result in corrective action of termination. All right, we're going to talk about standard operating procedures, or the SOPs. All employees will be required to read through and study these different corresponding SOPs. This is the way the job is done. It's the operating procedure of how to do the job. So each department's different. In fibers department, they have certain procedures on how to make the fiber bundles. In the molding department, they have the procedures on how to make the moldings. So you would learn different SOPs than the fibers. But in the same aspect, there's going to be certain safety SOPs and safety requirements that everybody will learn and study. Now, these are going to need to be passed by taking corresponding tests, and you have to pass the test with an 80% or better. It is also your responsibility to make sure you stay updated on each test and make sure they're done before the due date. I had two just this last week that were due on the 15th, and I made sure I had them done before the 15th. So even I get these tests and quizzes that we have to do. As far as they go, they're done on the computer, on a computer program called Compliance Wire. Now, if you fail a test, you have to ask for help, and then you can retake it. If you fail it a second time, then for sure, get help with your supervisor before taking it a third time. Because if you take it a third time and fail it a third time, then you will receive a documented counsel, could get disciplinary action up to even termination. So please, let's just avoid this altogether by asking for help by the supervisor before you take it a second or third time. Okay, I want to point out that these quizzes are open book, so you will have the opportunity to be looking at the computer and seeing the material while taking the quizzes. Okay, so they're not that hard. And sooner or later, though, you will fail a quiz. It happens to all of us, because think about it. If it's only a 5-question quiz, that means I have to get 4 out of the 5 right to hit 80%. If it's a 10-question quiz, I have to get 8 out of the 10 right. Okay, any questions about the standard operating procedures? Okay, we're going to talk about safety and security. So Fresenius Medical Care has 0 tolerance for violence, threatening, or aggressive or abusive behavior in all of its locations. These behaviors will not be tolerated, and every effort to prevent or respond in such incidents is made immediately. So weapons are prohibited on the premises and in the facilities of Fresenius Medical Care. There are precautions and safety measures in place. We do have security cameras, lighting in remote areas, security escorts, and buzzer entry systems to get into the buildings. Prohibited items, these are included but not limited to, so no guns, knives, clubs, biological agents, chemicals, or explosive devices. Please just leave your guns and knives at home. Now, you will use a utility knife probably to open boxes. That's okay. It's just we're talking about personal guns and knives. Just leave them at home. Okay, the continued safety and security. Employees who do feel threatened in workplace, they should immediately notify your supervisor or someone in human resources. If necessary, local police should also be contacted. Any employees that are involved in such behavior are going to be subject to corrective action. Generally, they're going to be suspended immediately, and then there will be steps taken to evaluate and investigate the situation. Maybe it was a misunderstanding, the person can come back to work. Or it may be something more serious, where the investigation finds the person needs to be terminated. Counseling is available for employees who become victims of abuse or threatening behavior through the company's Work Employee Assistance Program. Employees who have a restraining order, this includes for you or for someone that maybe works at Fresenius, you need to want to notify your supervisor. That's because if you do have a restraining order against you, or someone has one against you, or you against someone else that works at Fresenius, we want to make sure that reasonable steps can be taken to assist you and make sure you're not coming in contact with that person. Okay, all employees are responsible to ensure that Fresenius is and continues to remain a safe workplace. Okay. Now we'll talk about tobacco use policy. So smoking and the use of smokeless tobacco products are only allowed in 2 designated areas. So technically Fresenius is a tobacco-free workplace. Because of the material and the products we make, they have to be the highest quality and the cleanest, sterile, and they cannot have any contamination. And so tobacco and smokeless tobacco, this includes e-cigs and vaping, that is also included in this, are not to be used in the parking lots, in the buildings, in or around any of the clean rooms. And so they have realized that there are people that want to be able to smoke during their break. So they have designated 2 areas. One is the courtyard. That's just off of the main entrance off of 13th Street. This building is very, very, very large. So they have another one that's at the very opposite side. This building goes from 13th Street to almost 17th Street. So if you're working down in E-beam, it makes more sense. You're almost by the 17th Street entrance. Or if you're on dialyzer line 6, for example, same thing. You would want to work and walk out to the 17th Street bench that's just inside the 17th Street gate. Now it is covered. It does have, I call it a smoke shack. It's covered bench where you can be out of the weather. So smoking is not allowed on company-owned or leased parking lots. That means you can't smoke in your car, you can't smoke in the parking lot, you can't smoke while walking in, only in those 2 designated areas, the courtyard and in the bench inside 17th Street. Okay, any employee who violates this policy is subject to disciplinary action up to termination. Any visitors who misuse this policy are going to be escorted off the premises. All employees are responsible to report any misuse of this policy. You want to report it to the security team. Okay, we're going to talk about dress code now. This is for all areas of the plan, the general dress code. So anybody that's going to be in contact with the medical devices or in a pharmaceutical environment, we make sure we need to be clean, healthy, and suitably attired. Because if we have lack of that, if we're not clean or have good health or suitable attire, that could adversely affect the medical device. So what is allowed and what's not allowed? So down the list of allowed, t-shirts under a tank top, that's fine. A shirt with quarter-length sleeve, we don't want any underarm hair exposed. Hats are not allowed unless it's for safety. So hats for safety, like a hard hat, a beanie for weather if you're outside shoveling snow or something, or in the food service. So the food court, the cafeteria, they do wear hats. Other than that, hats are not allowed. Jeans, pants without holes or rips, as long as they're appropriate length. We don't want them longer than the heel of the shoe. Why would it matter if they're too long and they're longer than the heel of the shoe? Well, that means it's dragging on the ground and it's going to be frayed and probably bringing in contamination from the outside. Again, we don't want to contaminate the product. We can use allowed is stirrup or stretch pants, professional looking. This includes things like sweatpants, joggers, leggings, that's fine. Hoodies are okay as long as the hood is not up. And then closed-toed shoes. You need to wear something that is closed-toed, no sandals or flip-flops or slippers, anything like that. So what's not allowed? No tank tops, no halter tops, no exposed midriff tops. No open-toed shoes or open-heeled shoes. No hats of any kind, like I said, unless it's for that safety reasons. No bandanas unless approved for medical reasons. No sagging jeans, no pants, no underwear should be seen. Ooh, that's gross. We don't want to be seeing anybody's underwear. We want no ripped jeans or pants, no holes in their jeans, pants, or leggings. And you can't have see-through leggings. They need to be solid. They can't have that mesh that goes up the side of the leg. It needs to be solid if you're going to be wearing any leggings. And then no hoodies with the hood up. Again, that's a hat rule. And then no t-shirts or garments with inappropriate pictures or sayings. Is there any questions about that so far? Okay, dress code. This goes along with each area has different SOPs for gowning. When we talk about gowning, this means if you're going to go into a clean room, before you go into a clean room, you go into what's called the gowning room. The gowning room is where you put on maybe a smock or a lab coat that goes over your clothes, a hairnet and beard net, or you might be over in Solutions or Saline where they wear that full-on bunny suit. It goes from head to toe. And I'll show you guys a picture of that a little bit later on. So all employees are required to degown when leaving the clean rooms. This means when you leave Solutions to go to lunch, you have to degown, get out of the bunny suit. and then you put it back on when you go back in after break. Now, with the approval of the department, oh, I forgot to mention, fibers is the one area that has that exception that they can go to break in their scrubs. Their gowning procedures are not a lab coat, not a bunny suit, but they wear kind of like nurses' scrubs that are provided by Fresenius, and you can wear those to the lunch areas and then go back in. Now, with the approval of a department manager, shorts of 3/4 length or longer sometimes are approved in the pack out or in the receiving areas only. Doesn't mean we can be wearing shorts into the clean room where we're wearing a smock or a lab coat. It's only in the pack out area after it's left the fill room. Okay. What's not allowed in all production areas, including the pack out areas in the warehouse. So no dirty or frayed clothes or shoes, no dresses, no fingernail polish or fake nails, no hair accessories. Now, ladies, you can have your hair pulled back with a hair tie, that's fine, but they don't want just major accessories, major like barrettes with lots of diamonds and bling bling and things like that. You cannot have any face makeup, including fake eyelashes or eyelash extensions. So for all the ladies out at Fresenius while working, none of them are wearing makeup. The only exception to that would be today when you go to get your badge, that is okay to wear some makeup just to get your picture taken for the badge. But normally while out there, none of the ladies are wearing makeup. And then jewelry, there's no jewelry allowed, no piercings of any kind. So we're talking about any visible piercings, no tongue rings, nose rings, earrings, eyebrow rings. All of those are considered visual piercings and unacceptable. No jewelry, that includes wristwatches and wedding bands. They all need to come off. Any questions so far? Okay, now that I've said all that, you're gonna be probably out there and see a lady in a dress up by the office areas. And you're like, wait, Derek said no dresses. Well, up in the office and general areas by HR and finance and IT, that is okay. Sleeveless blouses may be worn. Open-toed or open-heeled shoes are also okay. Dresses, capri pants, slacks must be professional, but they are okay. Now, with that being said, though, if the lady in finance is wearing a dress and she needs to go out to the manufacturing or production areas, guess what? She can't. She will need to comply with the dress code for that area. That means she would have to change out of her dress and into normal clothes before she could go back into the manufacturing areas. Okay. Now we'll talk about the attendance policy. So employees will be paid for time that they're worked on the clock. It's not allowed to work off the clock. I don't know why you would do that, right? But you are responsible for clocking in and out and making sure your time is there and your punches are there. Now, any scheduled time off is okay. If you really have a day that you need to have off, let's say in November, you're going to be the best man at a wedding or a bridesmaid at your best friend's wedding. That's okay. You can ask for that day off ahead of time, and if your supervisor can accommodate it, they can say, yep, I don't have anybody else taking that day off. You're fine to take it off. If they approve it, then it's a scheduled day off. That's not going to hurt you. It's not going to go against attendance policies. Now, I would recommend you don't take any days off in your first 90 days unless it's something major like that, like a wedding. Okay, because one, you're not going to get paid. It's unpaid time off while through Elwood. But two, it just trying to get hired onto the company. We want to have good attendance, and you want to have that PTO build up so then you can be paid by taking those days off. So unless it's a major reason you need to be off, I wouldn't schedule days off, but it is okay to schedule them. It's not going to go against you. Okay, now these ones, the unscheduled days off, those are the ones that actually can have people getting written up for and end their assignment. Actually, the attendance is one of the main reasons why employees' assignments end at Fresenius, because again, they're very strict with tardiness and absences. If you're absent more than 16 minutes, that's considered a full absence. You're going to get an occurrence. A tardy is 1 to 15 minutes, then it's a half of an occurrence. If you're 16 or more minutes late, it's a full occurrence. If you're leaving work early, 1 to 15 minutes early is a half of an occurrence. 16 minutes or more is a full occurrence. And then the last one, the no call, no show. Please don't do this. This can get you terminated really quick. If you can't make it into work, you have an emergency, a problem, your car broke down, I don't know, family emergency, you definitely want to call the supervisor, hopefully at least an hour before the shift, and each day you're going to be absent. And you need to call or text me as well. So let the supervisor and Derek know. Now, with that being said, if you don't do it, You don't talk to the supervisor, and you don't call or don't show, a no call, no show, two of those in 2 consecutive days is a voluntary quit or resignation. If you do just one no call, no show, it could be resulting in a final written warning, including a possibly up to a 2-day unpaid suspension. A second no call, no show in a 12-month period is result in termination. So this attendance policy does go for Elwood employees and for Fresenius. So let's make sure that you're there and at work on time and not missing. You're punching in that 6 minutes early and you'll be fine. You won't even have to worry about this. Please, I ask that you have plan B in place. Be proactive. Know if your car breaks down, you have a plan B. You can get on a bus or you can let a family member let you borrow their car. Things like that are ways that you can prevent any of this from happening and you won't have any attendance issues at Fresenius. Okay, communication is huge. Making sure you're communicating with them and me is also a big part of this. So by communicating and having those plan Bs set up, I'm trying to help you be set up for success so we don't have to end anybody's assignment for attendance. Any questions so far about the attendance policy and how you get occurrences? These occurrences add up and you can get documented counsels, written warnings, final warnings, or termination. So please just be careful with that. One I did want to point out here is the line cut. You get 0 occurrences for a line cut. That means they sent you home. That means a machine broke down, they couldn't get it fixed, they had to send you home. It doesn't happen that often. Normally if a machine breaks down, they get the technical specialist out there and they fix it up. While they're working on it, you would be cleaning the clean room and making sure that it is sterile and clean. So they usually keep people working. Another one I want to point out though is that repeat occurrences of early in or early outs. If you're punching in more than that 6 minutes in or later than that 6 minutes out, it could result in discipline. There's also the forgotten badge. If you forget your badge, it's an occurrence for the day. I had an employee earlier this summer. He forgot his badge 9 times in 3 weeks. Guess what? There was a deeper issue going on there with him. He was actually forgetting it on purpose. He got let go for it. Well, that's excessive, right? 9 times in 3 weeks. I got him 9 points. And then he also was telling him, "Oh, I forgot my badge. Can you punch me in at 5?" Well, the reality was he was getting there after 5 and he was getting tardies. And so he was getting those occurrences racking up and they saw it on the camera. But yeah, he's not getting there at 5. He's after 5. So he was forgetting his badge on purpose. That's time card fraud. His assignment ended. Okay, so just be careful of attendance. Is there any questions about any of these policies or slides that we've gone over to this point? Okay, this next slide is going to be the quality management system. So here's the agenda for this slideshow. We're going to go over federal regulations and standards, dialysis and patient safety, good documentation practices, and the quality policy. So with Fresenius, what quality means at Fresenius is it's a very, very big deal. Our products are necessary to sustain life. Defects may cause lost treatment time, serious infections, or even death for our customers. We don't want anybody to die. That's not our goal here. We're trying to save lives, not take lives. So our quality, our product has to be the highest quality possible. Just like this gentleman here sitting in the clinic, he's connected to a dialysis machine and having the blood pulled from his body. He's expecting that machine, the related hoses and dialyzer, actual filters, all to be the highest quality. He's not expecting that to give him a serious infection or even kill him. And neither would you if you were sitting in that chair or if a loved one, your mom, your dad, your husband, wife, family, or friends. If you know anybody that's been through dialysis treatment, they all expect to have the highest possible medical care, as just same as you would too. So a quest for 0 defects is not just a good motto, it's actually a customer and regulatory requirement. There's federal agencies and international that make sure that we are keeping our standards to the highest possible quality. It's a requirement. The FDA, or Food and Drug Administration, makes sure that we're keeping our highest quality product because they want to prevent anybody from dying as well. Okay, with that being said, you should be proud that you're working for a company that's making products to save lives, and they are of the highest possible quality. And by doing this, we'll just briefly go over the hemodialysis again. This is where they pull the blood out of the body, run it through the dialyzer machine and through the filter, and then it goes back into their body. Again, these patients do have about 3 to 4 times a week they have to go to do this, and it takes about 4 hours. These are people with chronic kidney failure. They have very little kidney function left, and they have to go to the clinic. So most of them cannot travel. They have travel restrictions because they have to stay near to the clinics. They can't just go up to Yellowstone and say, I'm going to camp out for a week. There's no dialysis clinics, as far as I know, in Yellowstone. And so these people do have to stay close to the clinics, and they experience extreme highs and lows between the treatments. Now, the other one, remember the peritoneal dialysis? Now, this one is where they have the internal filtration. This is where the solutions bag goes in through the catheter, fills up the peritoneum, and filters and cleanses your body organs, including your kidneys. Now, these people are ones that can still prolong the natural use of kidneys. They can travel easily with supplies. They get them shipped right to their home. They can perform this at home, and they don't experience the highs and the lows between treatments. They can go to Yellowstone for a week if they want. And these people, they do have to do this maybe about 4 times a day. It takes about 30 minutes each time. But they do have their effects as well. They have a high risk for infection and scar tissue buildup. Because that catheter is semi-permanent in the body, they have to be careful they don't get an infection at the site where that catheter goes into their body. And they can't do any soaking. So no soaking means no baths, no swimming, no hot tubs. They just have to take regular showers. Now, some things you want to remember about quality is our basic product requirements. We want to make sure that the raw materials are safe and correct. We want to make sure they have the right ingredients and they're included in the final product. They need to be protected against any contamination or properly sterilized, fully sealed with no leaks, no damage to the parts or packaging. The labels and instructions, they need to be accurate and match the product type. They need to make sure it performs as intended and is safe for use. Records and documentation does need to make sure that it's within the specifications. Product needs to have traceability and contact information for customers with any concerns. This is super important that we have traceability. That means if that dialyzer in the picture here goes out to a patient and there's a defect or a quality mistake, they need to be able to trace it back to the machine, to the time and day that it was made, to be able to check other dialyzers around that same time to see if they have the same quality mistake or defect. So our products and processes are very complex. So how do we ensure that quality is being consistent? Well, by using what's called the Quality Management System, or a QMS. So QMS is the set of interrelated and interacting processes that organizations use to direct and control how quality policies are implemented and quality objectives are achieved. So we have what's called the ISO 13485 Quality Management System. That's in place to make sure that we minimize the risk of the end users. Again, we don't want to have anybody die or end a life because of our products. So we make sure that this quality management system is in place. So benefits to having a good quality management system is you're going to have customers that are satisfied. They're happy with the product that they're getting. They know they're getting the highest quality care. And then we have good cost efficiency. By following the good QMS, the medical device will avoid any unnecessary costs. Well, one example of what an unnecessary cost could be is a lawsuit from a manufacturing or a failure to recall the faulty product or devices. An example of this, there was a lawsuit against a company called Medtronic back in 2010. The defibrillation leads of their Sprint Fidelis family were recalled because of the faulty wires, because the problem was not detected soon enough. It was estimated that at least 13 people died because of the faulty product. In the end, it was agreed to pay out $268 million. I'm sure for Medtronic that was a lot of money that they lost, and they could have avoided if they would have had a better quality management system in place. But I'm sure the family members of those 13 that died would say, no, that's not enough money. There's no amount that could replace my family member that died. There's also cost and improvement consistency. So if things change, if we need to make a change to a process, it's going to be documented. These changes are going to be planned and implemented in the best possible way to maximize safety and efficiency. So most importantly, a good robust QMS means that you're going to help ensure patient safety. Because what could happen if the quality management system is missing or inadequate? It's like we said earlier, the patients could die. Our patients could also fall ill, which is just as bad. Or there could be plant closures, or the FDA could recall our product from the market and impose large fines. The FDA recalls would be something that happens to plants that aren't following their QMS. So you guys might be familiar with what the FDA is, that's here in the US, but we'll also talk about ISO, which is the International Standards Organization. So these are two healthcare regulatory agencies that make sure that we're making the product in the right way. So we're not killing people or making people sick or ill with our products. So the FDA compliance is required. We have to comply to their regulations. They are a government taxpayer funded entity. They may give us a 5-day advance notice for device, but not for drug. That means they could come knocking on the door and say, yep, we're here to audit you. We'll be looking at what you guys are doing right now. They just had one of these audits actually at Fresenius just in August. They were there for a whole week, maybe I think a few more days. And they are a U.S. government agency, so they enforce by law with financial and criminal penalties as appropriate. So what's the worst that could happen if we fail an FDA audit? Well, we could be issued a 483 or a warning letter. There's a consent decree or levy fines. They can seize or recall the product. They could shut down the whole facility if they want, and there could be even criminal penalties or jail time, prison time. The findings are available to anyone. Now, the ISO, the International Standards Organization, they're a little bit different. They're voluntary. We sign up to be certified as an ISO. We pay for the ISO audit. It's not government or taxpayer funded. The date of the audit is arranged in advance. We know when they're coming. You might say, well, that's kind of crazy. If we know when they're coming, we can just do things differently. No, when they come and audit, they're checking things that we've been doing for months and years in the past. So everything at all times needs to be at the right following the regulations. It is held to what's called the international standard because they're the International Standards Organization. They are making sure that around the world people are holding this high standard. They are a certified registrar. They're a private entity. There is no financial or criminal penalties levied with a fail of an audit. Then you might be like, well, then what's the worst that could happen if they're not going to give us criminal or financial penalties? Well, there are things that can happen. It's just as bad as if FDA audit fails. They can issue what's called a non-conformance. That means if they find something that's not right and it's not conforming to the regulations, we get a non-conformance. If we get too many of those and don't fix the problem right away, then we could lose the ISO certification altogether. If we lose that, you might be like, well, what's the big deal? We signed up for it, we lost it, okay. No, it's actually a really big deal because we will not be able to sell our products to countries who require the ISO certification. So it is important that we stay up to date and we make sure that our QMS is making the highest quality products. Now, there are some similarities between the FDA and ISO. Because of them, we have good requirements that are covered by both. We have good management responsibility, documentation and standard operating procedures are there. We're required to have good records and audits and purchasing controls, provide the actual adequate resources, control of the production and the way things are processed. We make sure we control any non-conforming product, and we measure and analyze and improve. So the realization of this is, the reality is FDA nor ISO, neither one of them tells us how to run your business. They just merely provide the framework for a good QMS. Now we're going to talk about good documentation practices. So when we do paperwork at Fresenius, whether it's out on the production lines or just even today doing these packets that we'll be filling out later on, you need to make sure that everything is clear, complete, and accurate. When we say clear, it needs to be legible and clear, able to read even if there's photocopies made. It needs to be used with a smudge-proof blue or black ink, like I mentioned earlier. If we do make a correction, it's just a single line through, date, and initial. You never want to backdate or predate. You want to make sure you make clear, descriptive comments if necessary. Now, when we say something needs to be complete, that means we fill in all required spaces with actual data. We don't use arrows or ditto marks. We put NA in any unused spaces and with a single line and strike through, which I'll show you what that means. We must retain all data, attach it to the record, never destroy the original data. And then we record ASAP after completion, but never before. You want to be accurate. Use only the effective version of the forms. Don't store SOPs or forms for later use. Don't alter any forms. Never falsify information. Your signature or initials make you accountable, so never sign for activities you did not complete or witness. So with this, we don't use whiteout. They never use whiteout at Fresenius. They just do a single line through the entire word. They don't scribble it out. Just one single line is sufficient. We must be able to identify it still. And then we, again, don't use whiteout or cover up. And then we write down the correct information and then initial and date it. So the example here says the pressure, the range should be between 1.5 and 2.5. If you notice, the actual reading was 2.7. And then they realized they made a mistake. So they put a single line through it. I can still see it said 2.7. They didn't scribble it out or use whiteout. And then they put the correction, the 2.4, initialed and dated. If you notice down below, they actually had to put a comment. It says wrote pressure incorrectly. Actual pressure was within the validated range. So again, if it's just fixing something simple like a spelling error, that's an obvious change. We don't have to document that. But if it's correcting an out of parameter result to a result that's within parameter, it must be explained. Okay, now we're going to talk about the date formats and what's not applicable. So date, when you're writing today's date, 9/22/2020, please don't use slashes. Slashes can be mistaken for ones. And I know a lot of us use slashes. We're used to that. So you're going to want to try and make a habit of changing to any documentation out of Fresenius, especially dates. You want to put the dashes. So 9-22-2020, just like in the preferred shown here. Okay, now when we protect from unauthorized use, this means that we don't want to add information later or change anything. So for example, you can see there on the bottom, it says the trainee roster, Joe Smith and Jane Doe. That means there was 2 people in that training. They signed, dated, and then there was nobody else. So they protected against unauthorized use by doing a line diagonal down and through the blank spaces, initialed and dated. That means Susie can't come by tomorrow and put her name down and say, oh, I was in that training, when she really wasn't. That would be unauthorized use. So we'll have the opportunity to initial and date along diagonal lines like this a little bit later on when we're filling out the paperwork. So I just wanted to point out that because you guys will be having the opportunity to initial and date along diagonals later today. Okay, the importance of documentation and records. Why is this so important? Is because it's good evidence required throughout an FDA and an ISO audit or standards. Every record must represent the accurate data and be legible, protected from the unauthorized use or changes. Documents must be clear enough to speak for themselves. Inspectors base the majority of their decisions on this documented evidence. So despite the best intentions, if it isn't documented, it didn't happen. Now here's the quality policy for Fresenius. I don't expect you to memorize this. I just want to make sure you understand how big quality is an important part of Fresenius. So the foundation of our efforts is the health and welfare of our patients. Fresenius Medical Care is committed to market leadership and providing excellent product quality and uncompromised services while maintaining compliance with all relevant regulations, effectiveness of our quality management systems, sustaining environmentally sound and efficient operations, and preserving the satisfaction of our patients, employees, shareholders, and the community. We are guided by the following principles: quality, leadership, innovation, and value. Okay, again, I don't expect you to memorize that, but I want you to realize that the purpose of the quality policy is that everybody's responsible for quality, not just the quality department, not just your managers, but all of us are responsible for quality. Human resources is responsible to make sure you have the right training and that you have the right paperwork and education documented, recorded. That make sure you have the building and the equipment and all the maintenance that needs to be upkeep. They also make sure that you have the right cleanliness and clothing, the right gowning requirements, and there's complete contamination control. So out of Fresenius feels more like a hospital than it does a warehouse. Very clean, very sterile. You guys are actually going to be safer working at Fresenius than probably anywhere else in Ogden. because they have these contamination controls that have been around even way before COVID-19 hit. They want to make sure that their products are germ-free and they don't have contamination from the atmosphere or from contamination on the products themselves. So the International Standards Organization, or the ISO, they have specifications for certain amounts of contaminants allowed in a clean room. You can't have a perfectly clean room with zero particles in the air, but that's why they have different classifications. This is why in the fill room you have to wear a full-on bunny suit, and they have more strict classification. They have to have less amounts of contaminants in the air or in the product. That being said, the clean room is going to be different. You're going to have, for example, limited areas like lab coats and hairnets, or the more extensively fully enveloped full-on bunny suit. Here's an example of what I'm talking about. There's the guy in the bunny suit if you see him in the picture. If you look at it, it does kind of look like a bunny suit, right? He's just missing the bunny ears. But this is the full-on suit that goes from head to toe, keeps him clean and keeps the product from getting contaminated. So this is one of the things. Not only is the clothing and the right gowning equipment, but also the tools and equipment. They need to be rust and corrosion resistant. Even that vacuum and tools he's using there needs to be rust and corrosion resistant. The air handling, usually there's positive air pressure pushing out of these clean rooms. And then they have to have good water filtration systems, cleaning agents, chemical use, the sanitation and trash, and they make sure they watch for pest control as well. So here's some examples of the gowning. Could be something like the lab coat on the left. You see her wearing a hairnet and a lab coat. Or the full-on bunny suits in the middle. Those two have the head-to-toe suits. The hairnets and beard nets, those are common. The lady that's wearing the face cover or the mask, that's actually something that is required now in the entire plant. Whether you're in the clean room or in the break room or just walking down the hall, they actually provide these masks for us. They do not want you bringing masks from home. The reason for this is we don't know if the mask you're bringing from home is actually the right qualified kind of mask that they need you to be wearing. So they provide all the masks. They actually expect you to wear the masks from the time you get out of your car till you go all the way into the building. You should be wearing a mask. I want to make sure everybody's okay with wearing a mask throughout their shift here today. And then sometimes on the shoes, they have shoe covers that go over your shoes. And other clean rooms, they just have you wear clean shoes. It doesn't mean you have to go out and buy brand new shoes, just some comfortable shoes that you can make sure are clean before you bring them in. So what's not permitted in the clean rooms? Includes the gowning and packaging areas. So no food or drink, no lunch boxes, no gum or candy or cough drops, no jewelry, no watches or wedding bands like we talked about, no makeup or lip balms or including lotions, and no tobacco products, no fake nails or nail polish, no dirty or frayed clothes, no dirty shoes, and no sick people. If you're sick, you need to talk to your supervisor. Now, this has been in place since way even before COVID-19, but it's even more strict now because they're making us wear face masks. They are also having you take a self test each day and doing a questionnaire. They expect you to take your temperature every day before coming to work and asking yourself certain questions. Now, if you do have any of the COVID-19 symptoms, then or a fever, then you will not come into work. You'll call and talk to your supervisor and let them know of your symptoms. Now, because of this, they want to make sure that the environment is very safe out of Fresenius. They do not want people coming to work sick. Now, I told you guys if you miss a day because of a family emergency or something, that's going to go unpaid for Elwood employees, right? Because you don't have PTO. Well, Fresenius has authorized for the employees, Fresenius and even Elwood employees, to be eligible for what's called COVID-19 disaster pay. So if you're out, that first day will go not paid. But if you're out more days because the nurse is having you get tested for COVID or they're just monitoring your symptoms, usually they have you out for at least 72 hours symptom free before you can come back. So they have authorized, which is a great thing that Fresenius has done. They're being generous. They're paying the Elwood employees as well this COVID-19 disaster pay, but there is a limit. You can't get too much. So with that being said, I want to make sure that that's clear that they've always had this in place. They've just made it even more because of the COVID-19. They have this disaster pay in place. And we'll talk more about that at the end of today. I'll show you the paper, the actual paper that you will look at and ask those questions to yourself each day before coming to work. Okay. Now, food and drink, you can take food outside of the cafeteria as long as it's covered. So there's 3 different break rooms. The one main cafeteria that makes the food, but then let's say you're like, oh, I want to take my food down to the other break room that's closer to my line. Well, in that case, you can walk through the hallways with the food as long as it's covered at all times. I can't be walking down the hall and eating my french fries while I'm walking, right? This is because we need to protect from any insects and rodents. Any of those can actually contaminate the product as well. So now we're going to change gears a little bit and talk about the control of raw materials in the process and product. When we get the purchase of the raw materials, they can only come from an approved supplier, and they need to make sure they have the right documented requirements. We can only purchase the approved materials from these suppliers. We test and inspect the raw materials as they arrive to ensure they meet the specifications. We can also provide feedback to those suppliers and discontinue use if necessary. So why is this so important that we're testing and checking the raw materials? What could happen if a supplier of a raw material which is used in our product decided to change something, or the design or the ingredients? What could happen? Well, that change could go unnoticeable, or the change could even be harmful. There was an example of this back in 2007. There was a huge scandal in Panama. This occurred when the Panamanian pharmaceutical manufacturers, they were making cough syrup, and they were using diethylene glycol, which they believed to be glycerin. But diethylene glycol is a less expensive alternative to glycerin for use in industrial applications. However, diethylene glycol is also nephrotoxic and can result in multiple organ dysfunction syndrome, or MODS, especially in children. As a result of this, 365 deaths were reported in Panama. Wow, that's a lot of deaths, 365. What went wrong? Well, the manufacturer was unaware of the change. They thought they were getting glycerin. But that's not enough. They can't just say, oh, wash our hands of it and say, I didn't know. We ordered glycerin. We thought we were getting glycerin. They're the ones that sent us diethylene glycol. No, that's not how it goes. The manufacturer did not test or inspect the raw material prior to putting it in production. They also did not test the finished product for any contaminants. This is why the FDA and ISO exists, for our patient safety. Even those raw materials coming from another supplier have to be tested and checked to make sure we're at the highest possible quality. The federal regulations require us to do this because we've seen catastrophes like that one in Panama. So identification and traceability. So product labeling does need to make sure it's labeled correctly. This includes all raw materials, anything that's in process, or even the finished goods. They need to be segregated and easily identifiable and traceable, like we've talked about before, in case any customer issues come up. This is important so that we make sure that we know that we're using products that are approved for use. If a recall happens, the manufacturer must know what products or raw materials were affected. Okay, when we talk about quality, we're talking about the tools for continuous improvement, making things better each day. Customer feedback is one of those tools. Audit results, reducing defects, inspecting and testing, corrective actions and preventive actions, quality objectives, analyzing the data, and management reviews. All of these are going to be good quality tools to help us make continuous improvement. So what have we learned so far? If some of you can take yourself off of mute and help me answer some of these questions. These aren't on the paperwork yet. These are just to see if you guys are making sure you have the information down right. So can one of you help me answer this? What type of dialysis uses the external blood filter? Is it hemodialysis, peritoneal dialysis, or chemotherapy?
Uh, that'd be hemodialysis.
Yep, perfect. Good job. The hemodialysis, that's exactly right. Okay, what about this one? What could happen if our quality system fails or is inadequate?
Death or illness?
Yep, that is one of them. It's actually all of them. They should have an answer there. It's all of the above, right? They don't though, but it is all of them are correct answers in this one. What about this one? ISO certification is voluntary in the United States. Anybody remember if that one's voluntary? Is that true or false?
It is in fact voluntary.
Yep, that's true. ISO is just voluntary, correct. What about this one? Following FDA regulations is voluntary. No, right? That's false. We have to follow those. It's not just voluntary. You have to initial and date all corrections. Is that true or false?
That is correct.
Yep, that is true. What about this one? When taking food outside of the cafeteria, it must be, is it shared, taken to the clean room, or covered?
Covered.
Covered, right? Good job. Thank you. When taking food, that's because we don't want that contamination, insects and rodents, right? What about this one? Who's responsible for quality? Managers only, manufacturing personnel only, or everyone?
Everyone.
Everyone. Yep, that's right. Which is permitted in clean room areas? Gum, makeup, frayed jeans. Trick question, right? It's actually none of the above. None of those are permitted in the clean room. Okay. Now we're going to talk about metrology. What is metrology? We're going to talk about the definition, calibration and calibrated equipment, calibration labels used at the Ogden site, your role in the regards to the calibrated equipment. So metrology is the science of measurement. It includes all theoretical and practical aspects of measurement. Calibration now, that's the comparison of one device to another within a known quality or accuracy. This is otherwise known as a standard. It's the way we make sure that things, by comparing, that they are what they say they're measuring. Fresenius Metrology Department ensures that all the material coming in, the manufacturing, the labs, the release testing, and the control, all of those are within the specifications. For example, if something says it's 1 foot, it must actually be 1 foot. If it says it's 80 degrees, it better be reading that it really is 80 degrees. They can test against weight too. If it says it's 30.5 pounds, it must be 30.5 pounds. So throughout the site, there's different devices measuring and monitoring product. These are all going to require regular calibration testing. Calibration equipment is traceable to the national or international institution. Here in the US, we have one called NIST, the National Institute of Standards and Technology. The NIST is located in Maryland, Gaithersburg, Maryland. Each test recorded will be retained to show the traceability. So what we're talking about here again is we need to be able to trace everything that we do back to the NIST. So what happens is Fresenius Medical Care, they calibrate something, they use their equipment, that's in-house, and then they have to send it off to a secondary lab for more calibration. They check it to see if that's right, and then it gets sent to a primary lab to be verified and checked to make sure what we calibrated was correct. And then it goes to the NIST, or the international standards. This is an example of a traceability chain to make sure that what we are saying is truly correct. So some early forms of metrology and standards, back in the earliest forms we know of, was recorded standards in Egyptian cubit. That was measured your elbow out to your outstretched fingertip. By the year 2500 BC, this had been standardized into what's called the Royal Master Cubit, made of black marble about 52 centimeters long. This cubit was divided into 28 digits, roughly a finger width apart, which could be divided into more fractional parts as well. The Egyptian cubit was good, but it was obviously flawed because some people's arms are longer than others, right? It can vary. My arm could be longer than your arm. So it can get you close, but not exact. Where you have the Royal Master Cubit or the Royal Cubit, that was a great technological breakthrough at the time because now they had a ruler. Now they had a way to measure and make sure it was the right exact length each time. Now we've evolved to today where we have the International System of Units, officially called SI. This foundation is built upon 7 base units that have been agreed upon internationally. It is the logical framework between science, industry, and commerce, and consists of the following. We measure length in meters, time is in seconds, electric current is in amps or amperes, luminous intensity is measured in candela, temperatures in Kelvin, mass is in kilograms, and the amount of a substance is in moles. So every day we come across things that are calibrated. You might not even realize it. Gas pumps have a sticker on them that will have a state's weight and measures on it. This is to ensure we're getting the right amount of gas. This tank here, it's showing he's purchasing 8.5 gallons. So when they come and check this and calibrate it, they check it. If he's getting 9 gallons, it's out of calibration. It's not right. It's saying he's getting 8.5, but if he's really getting 9 gallons, woohoo, he's getting more than what he's paying for. But let's say it's the other way around. It's saying he's getting 8.5 gallons, but they measure it and they only given out 8 gallons. Now the company's making more money off of him because they're only given 8 gallons when they're charging him for 8.5. So this is why calibrated equipment is so important, not only at the gas pump, but at places like the grocery store. You've probably come in contact when you go to put your apples on the scale and it's already reading 1 pound before you even put them on. That means it's not calibrated. It's out of adjustment. It needs to be calibrated and adjusted and to make sure it's measuring correctly. Because at the time of taking it to cashier, he also has a calibrated scale, and if it's not on, then again, we're getting charged differently than what we expected. So these are just different examples of when we come across different calibrated instruments. Our cars, the car speedometers, those are calibrated at the plant when they're being made. The police radars, they have a calibrated tuning forks that are used to test for accuracy in the radar guns. You can actually check your own car. Sometimes you might have seen these in freeways. They have a speedometer check areas where they tell you if you drive at 60 miles an hour and you have a passenger start the timer at marker 0, and then the timer should be at 60 seconds, you should be passing the next mile marker. That means your car is calibrated correctly. So why do we calibrate? Well, here, most instrumentation at the Ogden facility is used to control the process of which the product is made. The sensors seldom fail. If there's an abnormal reading to a sensor, that means that there's actual problem with the process causing the abnormality. So an abnormal reading in the instrumentation should never be overlooked or mistaken for just, oh, it's a faulty sensor. You want to notify your lead or supervisor if you see an abnormal reading. What we calibrate, some instrumentation is used to take measurements of raw material. Some is used to process the validated parameters. Some of it's used to measure the finished product to make sure that it's consistent with the original design and meets those customer requirements. We do have the different research and development building that has instruments used for also experimental research. So what do you need to know about calibration? Your responsibility is, I want to ask these questions. Is it calibrated? Is it the calibration within its due date? Is it in good operational order? And is it the correct equipment for the procedure? If you ever have a question about validity of calibrated equipment, make sure you ask. All calibrated devices need a calibration sticker attached to them. Now this calibration sticker is going to show you a unique identification number, the date that it was last calibrated, the date that it's due next, and the technician who performed the calibration. A calibrated instrument is not acceptable for use after midnight of the due date. No exceptions. So that means if there was a piece of equipment that expired today, 9/22, does that mean you can use it all the way till midnight? Or does that mean as of this morning at 12:01, you can't use it anymore? Right? That's what it means. It means after midnight, 9/22 at 12:01, we cannot be using that machine at all. It needs to be called the supervisor or metrology department for them to come and get it calibrated. Now you also have a responsibility if you come across a damaged instrument. If an instrument is damaged, do not discard it. Calibrated items that are damaged, they're going to receive a non-conformance. Now we know things are not being conformed. So each nonconformance must be mitigated to determine if there was impact to the product. Allow for the department to obtain the as-found data from the item. Just like this truck here that crashed on the side of the road or broke down, had some type of damage, we wouldn't just take it to the junkyard and then let them try to figure it out. They would want to investigate, see what the problem was, figure out why this just broke down on the side of the road, see if it actually had an impact on the passengers. Just the same as with the machinery out at Fresenius. If there is a breakdown or a problem, you want to leave it as found so they can determine if it is something that impacted the product as well. So if you do find a damaged instrument, again, discontinue use, contact the metrology department for replacement. Now here's the labels you might see out of Fresenius. Calibration labels. If it says for reference only, that means it's not calibrated. You don't have to worry about it, it's just there. Now there is the calibration stickers, the white one or the yellow one. If it has that, you'll see it has a unique identification number, the ID number, the date that it was performed, and the next date that it's due and by who. You also might see a rejected sticker. That means do not use that machine, it's rejected. Or you might see an out of service, do not use. This might be because they're trying to get the calibration scheduled, or it exceeded some type of specification, or there's another where they have notes. But anyway, if you do see one of these out of orders or do not use, then do not use it. Okay. There's also the cal void if seal is broken. You've probably seen these at different machines or parts or places. If there's a sticker on it and it's torn open or broken, that means now the product needs to be recalibrated before it can be used. Okay. Your responsibility, remember, you are the most important role in the manufacturing of quality products here at Fresenius. Okay, we're going to ask some questions again. If you can take yourselves off of mute and answer these. Most instrumentation in the Ogden facility is used for what purpose? Do you guys remember this one? I'll actually help you out with this one. It's to control of the process. What about this one? Employee responsibilities regarding instruments include, is it calibrated? Is the calibration within its due date? Is it in good operational order? Or all of the answers are correct? Anybody want to jump in and help me answer this one?
D.
Yep, it is D. All the answers are correct. Good job. What about this one? What information should be on the calibration sticker or label?
D.
Yep, that one's D again. It should have the unique identification number, the date it was calibrated, and the next due date. Good job. If you see an abnormality with an instrument, you should report it to who?
A.
Yep, your supervisor or metrology department. That's right. Good job. Okay, now we're going to talk about microbiological awareness, good manufacturing hygiene, and hand washing. So we're going to talk about what is good hygiene and hand washing, quality assurance testing, and good gowning and clean room practice. So good hygiene, some important facts. This is interesting. Our hair can have 1 million bacteria just in 1 square centimeter. Our forehead can have 100,000 bacteria just in 1 square centimeter. Nasal secretions can have 10 million bacteria just in 1 gram. Saliva can have 100 million bacteria just in 1 gram. Our hands can have 100 to 1,000 bacteria just in 1 square centimeter. There are 10 times more bacterial cells on us than human cells. What? That is crazy to think. There's way more bacterial cells than our own human bodies are made up of cells? That's crazy. Good hygiene practice plays an important part in keeping our environment clean. So hand washing. Hand washing prevents 3 main ways in which disease can spread between people. You have the fecal oral transmissions. This happens more often when people forget to wash their hands after using the toilet and then they touch food or drinks or other items. Then there's the indirect contact with respiratory secretions. This happens when people that are infected cough or sneeze into their hands, and then they leave those discharges and they picked up by another person when they touch or shake hands. Many common infections can also spread by airborne transmission. This could be the common cold, strep throat, mono, pink eye. chickenpox, influenza, smallpox, and yes, COVID-19 fits under this number too. And then you have number 3, the contact with body fluids. Urine, saliva, and other moist body substances can spread microbes, including the typhoid, staphylococcal organisms, or Epstein-Barr virus. These germs can be transmitted from person to person or indirectly by contamination of a food or other objects, such as even toys. So good hygiene, you want to wash your hands, and we've all heard this, especially now with COVID-19, but I want to make sure we're just clear. You use plenty of soap and warm water. You rub your hands vigorously for 20 seconds. That means you wash all surfaces, the wrists, the top, between the fingers, under the nails. And then you rinse well and dry thoroughly. So the SOP 07G001S tells us that hand washing, it is recommended that you wash your hands after using the restroom and or using or checking your cell phone. A cell phone has 18 times more bacteria than a public restroom. Wow, that's crazy to think about. So where applicable, it is also recommended that you wash your hands after just even adjusting a hairnet or earplugs, after gowning or putting on your gloves, before entering the clean room, or by touching any contaminated surface without gloves. So again, we want to wash our hands after just touching your hairnet, after gowning, before putting on gloves, before going into the clean room, after touching any contaminated surface, and always after using the restroom. Yes, you still have to wash your hands before entering the clean room, even if you just did after using the restroom. So you wash them in the bathroom, and then you wash them again in the clean room or the gowning room before going into the clean room. So washing our hands, we want to make sure we wash them before putting on gloves. If there's a possible, disinfect the gloves with alcohol. You want to avoid touching your face, sanitize the gloves if this occurs. You want to replace any gloves that are worn or torn. Holes can form after heavy or prolonged use. The microbiology of quality assurance, the goal is to make sure the medical products are free from microorganisms. This helps to make sure our patients are safe. Quality assurance testing, there's 3 different kinds. The bioburden, that's the number of bacteria living on the surface that has not been sterilized. The pyrogen, this is a substance typically produced by the bacterium, which produces a fever when introduced into the blood. Then there's the environmental. It's the job of the microbiologist to test the environment of our products and make sure that they're clean in the clean rooms. And they make sure that the test includes particulate levels in the air, as well as bacterial levels just right on the surfaces within the clean room. So you make the difference. Remember we talked about we have a lot of bacteria cells on us. 70% of the bacteria contaminants typically found in the Ogden plant are precipitated by you and I. That's why we have to have the proper gowning. Our skin, our hair, our clothing can be contaminants. You can also have shedding material from cardboard or paper or cloth. Any abrading actions from drilling or sawing. Surface contaminants, just even our fingerprints, our skin oil, hand creams, cosmetics. That's why we can't wear any makeup. No wax or polish or oil or grease. The oil vapors and alcohols, paints, glues, aromatics, all of these can be contaminants. So the main primary reason we have the clean room garments is we want to protect the product from people. Since we have all that bacteria on us, right? We want to confine the contamination inside the garment, and then it directs any contamination down towards the floor. Each area has those different gowning attire, like I mentioned. So you want to always check for holes, tears, dirt on yourself or coworkers, and ensure that your hair is properly secured under the nets. Here's what we want to do. Wash our hands. We want to follow those gowning procedures, just act normal, and clean your area regularly. Here's kind of a crazy clean room. Facts. The particles are moving around. These are tiny, tiny micron is what they're called. So a micron can be a contaminant, and it's tiny. We can't even see it. So human hair blown up 2,000 times their actual size here is blown up. It's showing what a 0.0035 inch diameter would be. You take the grain dot, which is even smaller. That's a 0.001 inch. The blue dot's a 0.0001, and then the micron's that itty bitty orange dot. It's a 0.000039 inch. So itty bitty tiny. That's what a particle is. And guess what? 100,000 of those are moving around every minute just when I'm sitting or standing, being motionless. And then if I move my upper body or my head, now 500,000 particles are moving every minute. If I move my upper and lower body, now 1,000,000 particles are moving per minute. Just standing up, now 2.5 million particles are moving around. Walking throughout the clean room, now at 2 miles an hour, you got 5 million particles moving around. If I'm walking fast at 5 miles an hour, 10 million particles. Now these are going to be what we want to do to limit. Recommendations are limiting vigorous action, so no running, singing, or yelling, or waving inside the clean rooms. We want to limit our material or mechanical tasks too. We shouldn't be drilling or soldering or sawing inside the clean rooms. We obviously want to make sure we avoid sweeping and dusting. They use clean room wet mops. Always disinfect items before bringing them into the clean room. Okay, and then we want to leave non-work related cell phones in our lockers. So good hygiene, safety of our products depends on the informed and trained people, the conscientious employees, proper garments and dress habits, our personal hygiene. That means we have to take showers and wear deodorant every day. On cleaning work procedures and making sure we're in effective sanitation, frequent and thorough hand washing. And most importantly, it depends on you. So we'll go over what have we learned. The goal of microbiology quality assurance is to ensure our medical products are free of microorganisms. I'll go ahead and help you with this, guys. That one is true. Okay, what about this one? When should you wash your hands? Is it after using the restroom, before entering the clean room, or after touching any contaminated surface, or all answers?
D.
Yep, D, all answers are correct. Good job. What about this one? Gloves do not need to be replaced if torn.
B.
Yeah, that one's false. Yep. Good job. What SOP or standard operating procedure would you reference for hand washing? You guys might not remember this one, so I'll help you with this one. It's actually D, the 07G-001S. What about this one? What type of testing is done by quality assurance?
D.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Was it D?
It is D. All of them are correct. That's right. There's a bioburden, pyrogen, and environmental. All three of them are tested. Okay, guys, we made it through the slideshow. So now, before we take our break, we're going to actually pull out the quiz. The first quiz that we're going to do together is the first day on the job with CGMP. So if you can pull that out, we'll go ahead and get to that one. So you'll want to put your name on it where it says Fresenius Medical Care, your first days of work with CGMP quiz. And I will read the question. I'll ask all of you to take yourself off of mute and let's answer these together, please. So the first one is, working in the healthcare industry means that you accept a degree of responsibility that is A, greater than in an ordinary business, or B, about the same as for any industry.
Greater than.
Yep, A, greater than. That's exactly right. Okay, number 2, globally, we have to manufacture our products to the requirements of pharmaceutical control councils, the United Nations, or healthcare regulatory agencies.
C.
C, healthcare regulatory agencies. Remember, we talked about that. That's the FDA and the ISO. Those are who we have to meet their product requirements. Number 3, in the past, manufacturing problems have been caused by customers ordering the wrong things, people making mistakes, or changes of personnel.
B.
Yep, people making mistakes. B is correct. Okay, number 4, contamination is continuing threat to product quality and is defined by being caused by the wrong manufacturing instructions, a supervisor off sick, or any unwanted substances that may adversely affect a product or process.
C.
C, that's right. Any unwanted substance that can be adversely affect the product or process. Number 5, 2 points or 2 answers available here. So contamination can be caused by which of the following combinations? Rain and snow on the way to work, skin flakes and textile fibers, or dust and metal filings.
C.
C and D.
Yeah, B and C, that's right. B and C is correct. Good job. 6, which of the following are viable organisms? Bacteria, work surface disinfectant.
Bacteria.
Bacteria is correct. Yep. Okay, cross-contamination is caused by 2 points here. An angry supervisor, residues from one product mixing with an earlier one, unauthorized cleaning, or the effect of transferring a substance from one surface to another.
D.
Yeah, B is correct. And which is the other one?
D.
B and D. Yep, that's right. B and D. Okay, number 8, current good manufacturing practice, or CGMP, is defined officially as a quality assurance system which ensures that products are manufactured consistently to be fit for their intended use, or a set of rules laid down by each pharmaceutical manufacturer to ensure that its policies are followed. This one we didn't cover exactly in class, so I'll probably help you out with this one. This one's actually A. Okay, a quality assurance system that ensures that products are manufactured consistently and to be fit for their intended use. Number 9, which of the following are positive outcomes of CGMP in relation to the product? That it does what it promises, that it tastes good, that it is safe and does no harm, that it must comply fit for its intended use, or that it is the same in every country. 3 points there.
A.
A is correct, yep.
C.
C is correct, good job. One more.
And then D.
D, yep, that's right. A, C, and D, good job. Okay, number 10. Which of the following factors are necessary to ensure that the product does exactly as intended? 3 points. That the container holds the right medication which will not harm the patient. That it is made of the right strength, that it is delivered at the right temperature, that it is packaged correctly in the right quantity, and that it is the right consistency. This one's a little bit tricky, right? So I'm going to help you guys out with this one. So A, that the container holds the right medication, will not harm the patient, that's correct. D, that it is packaged correctly in the right quantity, that is correct. And then E, that it is the right consistency. Okay. Number 11, quality assurance means that actions for each stage of the process are decided by the supervisor each day, predetermined by the quality department, dependent on the ability of the operational staff.
B.
B, predetermined by the quality department. That is correct. Good job. Number 12, working here requires considerable initiative on your part. So if you have any doubts as to the next actions, you should use your initiative and do the most logical thing. Copy everyone else or by asking your supervisor.
C.
That's right, asking the supervisor. Good job. Okay, the underlying guidance of CGMP is to follow common sense procedures, comprehensive documentation, your colleagues' actions.
Comprehensive documentation.
Yes, B, comprehensive documentation. Good job. So which of the following types of documentation are used in CGMP? Is it instruction documents, insurance documents, reports, or timesheets?
A and C.
That is right, instruction documents and reports. Good job. A and C is the right answer. Okay, switching over to page 15, number 15, the instruction documents that cover routine activities such as cleaning, maintenance, environmental conditions, and sampling procedure are called routine operating procedures, technical operating procedures, or standard operating procedures? You guys remember?
C.
C.
Yep, C, the standard operating procedures. Good job. SOPs. That's the ones where you take the quizzes on the compliance ware program. Okay, number 16. Other instruction documents that cover product details include 3 points on this one. Let's see, product specifications, batch manufacturing instructions, customer orders, packaging instructions, or international manufacturing orders. A little bit tricky on this one. What do you guys think?
A.
A, yeah, product specifications, good.
B.
Yep, batch manufacturing instructions, good. So A, B, and then one more,
E.
D, packaging instructions. Yep, that's going to cover product details, packaging instructions, D. Okay, all right. Now, number 17. Accurate records are very important and they should be completed at the end of the shift without fail, at the time of the event, or when convenient.
B.
B, yep, at the time of the event. Number 18, you must sign records to show exactly what has been done or checked only if you are satisfied that it is correct immediately or if someone else did the work.
A.
So I heard an A, and I think I heard one of the ladies say B, so it's got to be A or B. Yep, we're not going to do it if someone else did the work for sure. If you read it carefully, you'll realize A is the better answer, only if you are satisfied that it is correct. It's more important you do that than if you do it immediately. So A, good job. 19, if a genuine mistake is made, which of the following is the correct procedure for the record? Make the correction on the form and remove the original entry and sign it. B, make the correction on the form, leaving the original mistake clearly showing and sign it. Or C, ask someone else to complete the form.
B.
B, yep, you make that correction, but you leave the original mistake clearly showing and sign it. Good job. 20, all entries must be countersigned to verify the action is as stated. A, whether or not you or they witness the action, or B, only if you or they witness the action.
B.
Yep, it's only if you or they witness the action. Good job. Okay, number 21. Because you must normally wear body garments, protective headwear, or gloves, your personal hygiene, such as regular baths or showers, is not terribly important.
B.
False, right? Yeah, it is important. We take showers and we wear deodorant every day before going to work and have clean clothes too. Okay, 22. In terms of personal hygiene, particular attention should be paid to, is it your feet, your eyes, or your hands and fingernails?
C.
Yeah, see, your hands and fingernails. Good job. 23, cross-contamination is hazardous, so gloves should be worn for 2 points here. Is it touching the product, touching any part of the machine, touching parts of the machine in contact with the product, or touching the control panel of the machine?
A and C.
A and C is right. Yeah, if you're going to touch the product, better have gloves on. If I'm touching the parts of the machine that are in contact with the product, exactly. If it's a conveyor belt, that solutions bag's going down or something, then yeah, I better make sure I have gloves on. That's right. Okay, these ones get a little bit trickier, but let's just make sure we're remembering we're talking about current good manufacturing practices. So number 24, as soon as you arrive to work, what conditions should you or should report which of the following conditions? Is it that you were late, that you were ill, that you have a sunburn, or that you were a vegetarian? 2 points.
A and B.
You're not going to be late, right? You're going to be there early and punch it in. So it's not A, it's actually B and C. Why do you think it's important we mark down if you have a sunburn? Why do I need to know that?
Bacteria.
Yeah, your skin could be flaking from the sunburn and it could contaminate. That's right. Okay. Number 25, which of the following are considered to be essential procedures when working to CGMP guidelines? 3 points. Working tidily, arriving to work on time, wearing protective clothing correctly, or washing hands before entering the clean room.
A, C, and D.
Yeah, good job. The arriving to work on time is good, but that's more of an attendance thing. We're talking about CGMP. So yes, it's working tidily, wearing protective clothing correctly, and washing hands before entering the clean room. So A, C, and D. Good job. 26. Which of the following should you never do when working to CGMP guidelines? Take a drink into the clean room, not create turbulence, wear jewelry under your gloves, or follow instructions precisely.
C.
C, yep, we should never wear jewelry under our gloves. What other one?
A.
A, right? A and C. Never take a drink in the clean room and never wear jewelry under your gloves. Okay, guys, good job. We made it through the CGMP quiz. We are a little bit ahead of schedule, actually, at 10:52. Normally we get done at this point right at about 11, but that's okay. We'll go ahead and still take our 15-minute break. So that means we'll be back here at 11:05, between 11:05 and 11:10. Okay, it'll be between 15 and 17 minutes. Okay, so just go ahead and put yourself on mute, and you can go get a drink, you can go get some water, go to the bathroom, stretch your legs, and then we'll be back to do the safety and filling out the paperwork and wrap up this orientation. Okay, is there any questions so far before we go to break? I don't think so. I think we're good. We'll ask questions when we get back from break too. So this one, I'm going to have you pull out that first cover page and the 5 pages behind it where it's the fill in the blanks, okay? So these pages of the fill in the blanks, remember you get to keep these at home. So just please fill them in. If you happen to miss a blank, it's okay. It's not the end of the world. But do fill in the blanks as we go along because this will help prepare you for the safety exam, okay? And to get us started, I will help out by going to go forward a couple slides. So while I'm doing that, Mont Stevenson is the safety manager. He is the one that actually used to provide this part of the orientation when we would do them out there at Fresenius. But because we've gone to an online version, they've asked that I cover it. So he was very good at presenting this, very funny, energetic guy. I apologize if I'm not as funny or energetic as him. You guys will probably have the opportunity to meet him and talk to him out there about any safety concerns or anything that comes up. If you do have any questions, he'll be the guy to talk to. But he does go through these slides, and some of them are just, even though I'm not the greatest presenter, I know that he will be able to just guide the pictures, and you'll see funny pictures and things that we'll go over. So hopefully this portion of the orientation goes a lot smoother for you than that first part. So we just went over like the quality policy and the importance of quality. But now the safety side of things is we're going to talk about who is responsible for what, safety rules and regulations in OSHA, personal conduct, levels of safety control, PPE, MSDS, fire safety, lockout, tagout, and accident reporting and investigation. Now, just like I mentioned on the last one, if you happen to have a slide freeze up and it doesn't go on to the next, please don't hesitate to take yourself off mute and talk to me and ask me so we can make sure we get you onto the next slide and get you refreshed. Okay, so with that being said, the fill in the blanks, I'm going to get you guys started before we get into the next one. We'll go to the next slide. So you should always ask who is what I'm about to do safe for me and others around me? This should be a question you ask out at Fresenius, doing your job, even at home. If you're going to be putting up Christmas lights later this fall, make sure you're using the right ladder, not one that's too short and making you stretch and where you could fall. You know, we should always ask this question: what is what I'm about to do safe for me and others around me? Safety should come first. So when we're talking about the 3 overall objectives in order of importance, you should write the word safe work environment. You can put safe work up above and then environment down below. Safe work environment. So Fresenius has this as their overall objective to make sure that you have a safe work environment. Second is that we're making a quality product. So we just talked about quality and the importance of the QMS and how important a high quality product is at Fresenius. And then third is the word profit. Profit means Fresenius has the objective to be a profitable company. To do that, they have to hit their goals. They have to get the product out the door. It has to be certain numbers have to make it to the clinics. The patients need it. And so we need to be profitable. You need to be quick and efficient and do your job in a good, timely manner. That's not going to come on day one. It's going to take time. You're going to be trained, showed how to do the job. Maybe they'll even show you the tricks and how to do it in a different, maybe grabbing the dialyzers a certain way so you're not hitting the box with your knuckles and just different things like that they'll show you to make sure that you are doing the job in a safe work environment. We're making the highest quality product, looking for any mistakes or quality issues, and then we do it with time in a quick and efficient manner so that we're profitable. So those are why they're in that order, because safety is first, quality is also very important, and then making sure we're a profitable company comes third. So you do not give in to the pressure of production. So I want you to write those words down, pressure of production. Sometimes that can happen to people. They feel overwhelmed. Oh man, there's too many dialyzers coming at me. I'm trying to get them in the boxes, but I can't seem to keep up. Well, you're new. They'll be training you. They'll be showing you. So don't give in to that pressure of production and think, well, I'll just do it this way. It'll be faster. Well, now all of a sudden you're maybe doing it an unsafe way where you could get hurt. Or maybe you're doing it faster and not watching what you're doing. And then quality diminishes. And we're missing those quality issues that we should be looking for. So again, always remember safety first, then making sure we got a quality product. And then with time and practice, our speed will come up. Okay. All right. So I want to read the environmental health and safety policy. I believe this is very well written, and it is, again, something like the quality policy. I don't expect you to memorize it, but I do want you to be aware of it and know how safe of a company Fresenius truly is. They're a very safe company, safety oriented. That's why we're having you go through the safety training right now today. So it says, we recognize the importance of our employees and their contribution to the company's past and future success. The safety and health of each employee is one of our most important concerns and obligations. It is the policy of Fresenius Medical Care to provide safe and helpful work environment and to ensure that safety is given primary importance in the planning and operation of all company activities. Each of us shares this responsibility. The continued safety of our employees is our highest priority. And I truly believe that Fresenius has that as their highest priority, the continued safety of the employees. So who's responsible for your safety and injury prevention? Well, management's responsible to make sure you have those safe working conditions, to make sure you have the right safe equipment, and to have the right proper training. Now, all employees have the responsibility to learn the tasks, get the knowledge and skills pertaining to your job. You have the right to ask a lot of questions, to be safe at all times, to be accident-free. You have the right to go home the same way you came to work. That means if you came to work with all 10 fingers, I expect you to go home with all 10 fingers, and so do you. You have the right to use your best judgment, common sense. You have the right to say no to all unsafe acts, requests, or situations. You have the right to make a positive difference. Don't be afraid to ask questions. It's your choice. What are you going to do? I would hope all of us would answer that question as, yeah, what am I going to do? I'm going to be safe at all times and accident-free. I'm going to say no to any unsafe acts, requests, or situations. Okay? I want you to be prepared for the physical aspects and requirements of the job. It is a very physically demanding job. No matter what department we're in, these are 12-hour shifts. You need to be prepared to be on your feet for long periods of time. Wear comfortable shoes. Your feet are going to be sore probably for the first few weeks until your body gets used to being on its feet for 12 hours. You also want to realize that your hands and that, they're going to be sore. It's kind of like if I went to the gym and I haven't done squats for a long time. If I go and do squats right now, my legs are going to be sore. for a few days, maybe even up to a few weeks, depending on how hard I work out and how often I do it over the next couple weeks. They're going to be sore for probably the first 3 or 4 weeks, really sore. So that's kind of normal to be expected, right? Like we're talking about. But there's things we can do to prevent the soreness and be realize what's happening. We want to stretch out. We want to loosen up before the start of your shift. Doing these stretches are important. Maybe even before the shift, maybe after breaks, before you get back to work, maybe after you get off work and you go home. Continue to do these stretches. Stretches are important to keep your body flexible and in good tip-top condition so you can be able to perform the job. Okay. With that being said, if you're feeling super sharp shooting pains or numbness or tingling going on, that's above and beyond that normal soreness I'm talking about. For that normal soreness, you can do ice and ibuprofen or some other type of anti-inflammatory, Tylenol. That's the recommendations we've gotten from the nurse in the past, is to have you use ice and ibuprofen or some other anti-inflammatory and to do those stretches. But there is also more. It might be the ergonomics, right? The study of optimizing human well-being with the overall system performance. So employees should understand the ergonomic risks associated with their jobs and how to prepare for and prevent physical stress, strain, and musculoskeletal disorders. So what we're talking about here is you need to be doing your job in a neutral as possible. If you're stretching or twisting or doing things that are unnormal or not neutral, then yeah, you're going to have potential injury. And we want to avoid that from happening, right? So with that being said, on your paperwork, you should be filling out the boxes and the paper and the blanks, or the part that says which is safer on the body. So when we talk about pushing or pulling, it's recommended that pushing is safer on the body. Bending at the waist or bending at your knees, well, that's going to be bending at your knees. If you ever have to pick up a box or something, they always recommend you bend with your legs and lift with your legs. Because if you bend at the waist, now you're lifting with your back and causing unnecessary strain and stress on your back. Now, carrying close or arms stretched out, well, the most safe way to do that to your body, the safer way is carrying it close to your body. If I have a stretched arm stretched out, now I'm putting unnecessary strain on my shoulders and back. What about twisting motion or facing your work? Well, this one is, like I said, we want to face your work, face it straight on, be as neutral as possible. If I'm constantly in a twisting motion to pick up or move something, I could hurt my back. I'm doing an unnecessary physical strain and stress on my back. Okay, so these are things that maybe if you are feeling the sharp shooting pains or numbness, you're going to need to let us know and we'll get you an appointment to go see the nurse. And the nurse will probably tell you to do the ice and ibuprofen and to do the stretches and things like that. But we probably have about 2,000 employees working out there on all the different shifts and all the different departments, and most of them are just fine, no problems at all. Maybe 1 out of 100 that comes through ends up having these issues that I'm talking about that are more above and beyond that normal soreness that you're expected to have. Okay, that's why we want to get you into the nurse if that happens. But generally speaking, most people are just fine. Okay, now with that, we want you to be able to recognize and identify any workplace hazards. Why is that important? Well, 1, to keep yourself safe. 2, to keep others safe. And 3, because it pays you money. You might be like, wait a minute, what? Why would I get paid money to recognize and identify a workplace hazard? That doesn't make sense. Well, yeah, safety pays a Fresenius. Safety team, if they see you working safely, they may give you these safety bucks. Or if you point out or recognize and identify a workplace hazard to the safety team, they'll give you these safety bucks. These safety bucks are valid for $1 at the cafeteria. So if you save up 5, 6, 7 of those, now you've got lunch on Fresenius. Yep, Fresenius paid for your lunch at the cafeteria. And they have really good food at the cafeteria. Very awesome. Okay, so with that being said, we want you to be safe. We want you to report all accidents and unsafe conditions to your supervisor or the safety department immediately. Why is that important? Well, it's on this slide like 3 times. Report, report, report. All injuries immediately. Report all accidents to your supervisor immediately, right? It's important that we are reporting any accidents immediately. You might ask, well, why is it so important that it's done immediately? Well, 1 is to get you the help you may need for that possible injury. maybe to see the on-site nurse, or if it's something more serious that she can't handle, to get you to an approved clinic to be seen by an approved doctor. Or it's also the second reason is to prevent the accident from happening to others. Let's say you slipped and fell on a puddle of water, and now we went and saw the nurse, and she checked out your elbow, and you're okay to get back to work. Don't want anybody else having to make a trip to the nurse's office either, right? So we need it to be reported immediately so we can prevent that accident from happening. And also so we can improve conditions. We need to get to the root problem. See, why was there a puddle on the floor in the first place? Maybe there was somebody cleaning up the clean room and they spilled a bucket of mop water or something. I don't know. Or maybe the rain from the night before, the storm, caused the roof to leak. Either way, we need to improve those conditions so somebody else doesn't get hurt or so you don't get hurt. That's why it's so important that you report any accidents immediately. While we speak, we got some workplace injuries going on, guys. This was information we got from the National Safety Council. Every 7 seconds, a worker's injured on the job. That ends up being 500 an hour, 12,000 a day, 88,000 a week, or 4.6 million injuries a year. That's a lot of injuries, right? Most common types of injuries keeping workers away from work is your sprains, strains, and tears, soreness or pain. Then there's the cuts, lacerations, and punctures. Here we got the top 3 workplace injuries resulting in lost work days is overexertion, contact with objects, slips, trips, and falls. So we just got to be careful of these things. There's some helpful tips. You want to obviously store heavy objects close to the floor, not really high. We need to make sure that we wear the proper personal protective equipment. Place the base of ladders on an even solid surface. And use good housekeeping practices. The top 5 occupations with the largest number of workplace injuries resulting in days away from work. 1 is service, that's your firefighters and police. 2 is transportation and shipping. 3 is manufacturing and production, that's where Fresenius fits in. We manufacture medical supplies. 4, installation, maintenance, and repair, and then 5 is construction sites. So I know Mont and everybody at Fresenius looks at safety and realizes safety, knows that it's a very safe company. They would say, no, we're not part of those top 5. Maybe other manufacturing plants are, and they have multiple injuries that result in days away from work, but not Fresenius. And they are true to the word. They have in the cafeteria a sign up on the wall that shows how many days they've gone without a workplace injury that resulted in a day away from work. I believe it's above 110 days right now. And then earlier this summer, there was at 110 days as well before they had an injury. So at least 2 or 3 times since March, since I've been out there, they've gone 100 days without having a workplace injury that resulted in a day away from work. So what this means is serious injuries. If it's a simple paper cut from the filing receptionist or something, that would, be an injury. Yeah, they went to the nurse, they got a Band-Aid, they were seen, but that's not resulting in a day away from work. They have had those kind of injuries. But for them to go 110 days without having an injury that resulted in a day away from work when they have 2,000 employees working, that's pretty impressive. Pretty impressive for a company that big, that size, to not have injuries. So they are very safe. They have a good, safe culture. And part of it's because you're going to be trained. Right now, we're going through safety and the importance of it. These are things we're covering right here today, and you'll also cover in Compliance Wire. That's that program, remember, where you'll be studying the SOPs. And you'll have to take quizzes. And just remember, when you take those quizzes, if you fail one, get help. If you fail it a second time, for sure, get help from the supervisor. Because if you fail it a third time, then we have to give you that disciplinary action, and I don't like to do that. So just make sure that we follow these safety rules and guidelines, and we're accident reporting. We're going to cover PPE, noise, lockout, tagout, hazard communications, emergency plans, hazmat spill plans, and OSHA regulations as they apply. So these again are open book quizzes that you can take while studying the SOP. You can take the quiz. Now we're going to talk about OSHA. OSHA stands for the Occupational Safety and Health Administration. Most people have heard of OSHA, but might not remember what they stand for. So, Occupational Safety and Health Administration. And when we think about it, OSHA didn't exist forever. Prior to 1970, there were no national laws for safety and health hazards in the workplace. That means in 1960s or 50s, I could be out working and not have to wear a hard hat or safety glasses. Or maybe I did. Either way, it didn't matter if I wore them or not because there were no laws or safety hazards in place in the workplace. That's why it's a very good thing that OSHA came along to help protect and save lives. So the mission of OSHA is to save lives, prevent injuries, and protect the health of America's workers. OSHA tracks job-related injuries and illnesses and provides training programs to increase awareness of occupational safety and health. There is a very important reason why OSHA exists, and we're going to see it here in a minute. Some of these are the pictures I was talking about that are funny. And some are not so funny. Some are very serious. It's like, wow, that's crazy. Why would a person do either one of those things? This is again why OSHA is important. We got a guy out on a ladder doing maintenance of probably an apartment complex. This is not at Fresenius. Very unsafe the way he has that ladder hanging right off the edge of that railing. And then this guy on the top of a ladder bent over with a guy standing on his back. Wow, that's exactly where he just needed to say, nope, that's an unsafe act. I'm not going to do that. You go get a taller ladder, a scissor lift, something else, but you're not having me stand on the top and standing on my back. No way. That's just crazy, right? Then you got this. Look at this. There's a forklift carrying a big piece of machinery. That's crazy. There's no safety harnesses, no safety equipment. That could come all crashing down at any second. I'm guessing this is probably not here in the United States. If OSHA were to see this here in the US, they would shut that plant down, I'm pretty sure. This is totally unsafe. Somebody needed to say, no, we just need to get the right equipment, the correct forklift to carry that up that high. Very unsafe, something that you would just say, nope, I'm not going to do. Here's another one. There's a guy out on a ladder that's not even fully extended, on cinder blocks, on a table, on benches. Wow. That whole thing could come crashing down at any second. Then you have a guy out on a board painting the windows, right? No safety harnesses, equipment. He could go falling if that board were to break. It'd be very tragic. Here we've got guys under a backhoe. Look at that. That is crazy. Taking a nice break in the shade, right? No way. There's at least one smart one. He's like, guys, get out from under there. This is an unsafe act, right? That hydraulic system of that backhoe could come crashing down at any time. The safer way would be, let's just go find some shade under those green trees over there. Again, this is very unsafe. Don't fall in just because one or two went under there, the third and fourth followed. No, you just say, no, I'm not going to do that. It's unsafe. There's a guy out on the ledge. Look, he's on a board too. Oh my gosh. The guy that's holding the board looks smaller than the guy that's on the board. Obviously, he could go fall in at any time. Then we got this guy grinding. Look, he's grinding, not watching, being aware of his surroundings. His sparks are going right into that acetylene and oxygen tanks. If those get hot enough, you got a bomb going off. Crazy. And then this guy down on his hands and knees being a human table. What is up with that? Who in their right mind agreed to get down on their hands and knees and be a human table? I would be like, nope, that's an unsafe act. You got saw tables right behind you. Just go use those. Crazy. This is where we need to stop and say, no, I'm not going to do that. Oh, look at this guy. He's out on the ledge, window washing, right? Barely holding on by his fingers and his toes. He could go falling, I'm sure. He's not harnessed, no protective equipment. And if you look at the next picture, he's probably up 30 flights. I don't know. I haven't counted them, but that is crazy how far up he is. Insane. Just that would be sudden death, I'm sure, if he were to fall. This guy's got the right idea. He's putting up a safety banner. Think safety first, but he's not doing it in a safe way. He has a ladder, but not even using it. He's up on a ledge and barely even holding on by the railing of the handrail. That's just crazy. He's not providing a safe example. Very, very unsafe. We want you to work safely. You do need to remember that you do have family that is expecting you at home. Your kids, loved ones, mom, dad, you have family that is expecting you to come home each night or each morning. So let's just make sure we're working safely, guys. You want to obey caution signs. So your personal conduct, one of the ones you fill in is you should be obeying caution signs. These caution signs are there for a reason. This machine has no brain. Use your own, like it says there. Let's make sure we are using our brains and watching out for caution signs. We need to make sure we are following rules and procedures. Be aware of forklifts, maintenance carts, AGVs, automated guided vehicles, and the bicycles and golf carts in the warehouse. These are ones you want to fill in your blanks because, yes, there are all of these things out at Fresenius. Remember, I told you it's a very large plant. It goes from 13th Street almost down to 17th Street. So you will see all of these things in the warehouse. And the AGVs are robotic forklifts. They're pretty cool. I'll show you a picture of them here in a second. Here is a picture out at Fresenius. This is not in a clean room. This is in the warehouse. They are having these pedestrian walkways for your safety. You want to make sure you always walk down the pedestrian walkway to the left. See, that's protected by posts and guardrails so you don't get hit by any forklifts or traffic going through. Now here's another hallway out at Fresenius. This one doesn't have the guardrails, but it does have the posts and chains, so I would definitely be walking down that left pedestrian walkway. Not down the middle of the road where that forklift is coming right at us and you could get hit. There are going to be places in the warehouse that don't have the guardrails or the posts or the chains or the walkways. In this case, if you're working or walking through this part of the warehouse, be aware of your surroundings. Be aware of those forklifts, the maintenance carts, the bicycles, the AGVs, and even golf carts. Okay, this is super important that we realize they have the right of way. They need to get their product where they're going, and this is out in their traffic area, their warehouse. So we need to steer clear of them, make eye contact if it's a human-driven forklift or bicycle, but also steer clear of them and let them by. Okay, here's a picture of the forklifts over by the saline department. He's backing up, got a blue light. Hopefully you'll see that and watch out. There's a maintenance cart, right? It's got a flag so you can see it a little bit easier. It's got his tools and toolbox. There's the bicycles. I know it's technically a tricycle, right? But they just call them the bicycles out there. Now this is not for you and I to go riding around and have a joyride around the warehouse, right? This is mainly specifically for the maintenance, your supervisors, or what we call the TSs. The TS is a technical specialist. He's usually just below the supervisors. He or she, maybe a machine broke down, and that TS, he or she needs to run and get the parts, and they're clear down by 17th Street, and they need to get the parts up by 13th Street. Well, instead of having to carry it all the way across the plant, they have these bikes. They can put it in a basket. And the tricycle, they get them back to the part, to the machine that they need to fix quickly and efficiently. Okay, here's those AGVs I was talking about, the robotic forklifts or automated guided vehicles. Okay, these know where they're going. They're very smart. They have a program that tells them what to go get and where to get it and where to take it. Okay, we need to steer clear of them, stay away from them. Even though they do have sensors, they will stop if you jumped in front of one, but I wouldn't trust it and see. I'd want to make sure that we let them get where they're going, and especially when they get their batteries low, they go to these docking stations automatically and they go back and recharge. So don't touch them, don't go near them, especially where that yellow circle is. That's the charging docking stations. It says danger, high voltage. I don't want anybody getting electrocuted, so don't go near those docking stations. Okay, your personal conduct. Again, we want to talk about paying attention to your surroundings. So no cell phones are allowed in the production areas. You don't want to be reading cell phones or reading books. No cell phones in the warehouse or in the production area. Okay, this is a rule. It is in place. A cell phone violation is grounds for written warnings and terminations. So please just leave your cell phones in your locker or use them in the break room, but not in the warehouse or in the production areas. Now, the exceptions are made for emergencies or necessary work-related communication. So you may see your supervisor or a maintenance supervisor out using the cell phone. That is possible. That doesn't mean it's okay for you to use yours. And it is possible that somebody else is going to break the rules. I saw a girl just the other day in Fiber's department inside the clean room. I was outside the clean room walking down the hall, and I saw through the window. She pulled out her cell phone and was texting somebody, and that she got written up for. It's grounds for termination. So please just don't use your cell phone in the work areas. They recommend you just leave them in your locker. She shouldn't have even had it in her pocket. Now, you are fine to use your cell phone in the break rooms. You can make phone calls, text, look at Facebook or the sports highlights for the day. All that's fine in the break rooms, okay? Just not out in the warehouse or in the production areas. And part of this is because of safety. We don't want you getting hit by a forklift while walking through the warehouse, but also it is a violation of the confidentiality agreement that you'll be signing later today. They understand that there's certain things just out of Fresenius, we've just got to keep them confidential. And by pulling your cell phone out, now there's a risk that now you took a picture, now that got pasted on Facebook or somewhere else, posted on Snapchat or something. So they do not want you using the cell phones at all in the production areas. Okay. All right, we want to communicate to others and warn of hazards. This warning of hazards is super important. Look at this next picture. It's kind of a fun one. A young lady in a red convertible, the sun in her eyes, and she's just got the nice wind blowing through her hair in her convertible. She has no clue about what's about to happen, right? Neither does he, obviously. The guy driving ahead of her, he's just about to go under a very low bridge. There's no warning signs, no hazards, no communication to him nor her of that's a low-lying bridge. And in about 1 second, she's going to have 2 porta potties on her lap. It's going to ruin her day completely. Ew, that's gross, right? But that's why we need to be warned of hazards. Out at Fresenius, we want you to get used to looking up for mirrors. They do have mirrors in the warehouse, in the hallways, by the cafeteria, and up by the office areas. And they definitely come in handy because if you do not look at those mirrors and you're coming around a corner, you won't hear somebody and you'll collide. I've seen people collide because they didn't use the mirrors. So just get in the habit of looking up and looking for the mirrors. Okay, personal conduct, visitors, children, family, pets. Unfortunately, none of those are available right now, especially the pets. That's never been allowed. You can't bring your furry friends out to a very clean warehouse that's cleaner than a hospital. But in the past, they did allow, maybe a wife, a spouse, a girlfriend, a boyfriend to come and enjoy a meal, or even a child maybe could come in the break room only and enjoy a meal with you. That was in the past, right? Now we have COVID-19 and they have no visitors allowed at Fresenius. Okay, so that is off the table. Um, in the past, you would have 5, maybe even 6 people at a table. That was fine. But now we have COVID-19 in place, so social distancing everywhere, including the break rooms at Fresenius. So you can only have 2 people to a table, and they're very long, over 6 feet apart. It's very nice, very spaced out, and it keeps everybody away from each other. This is a good thing. That's why we can't have family and friends coming out to visit. Now, they may change that in the future. I don't know. Maybe in a year, maybe longer, maybe never. But as of right now, there is no visitor rule. So that even includes when you come out to get your badge. Don't bring your brother, sister, or family member unless they are a badged employee at Fresenius. Don't bring any family or visitors. Okay? All right, no cameras. This is along with what we were talking about earlier. But this includes no video cameras, no still picture cameras, no audio recording devices, and no cell phones in those areas you're not supposed to have them. Now, I know our cell phones have cameras on them. We can't get around that, but we can follow the rules and not use our cameras at Fresenius. So if not, they could take away the cell phones and not even let us use them in the break rooms. So please, just if you're using your phone in the break room, you're fine to make texts and phone calls, like I said, but I would not even take pictures even in the break room. Okay. Any questions about those rules and personal conduct? We want you to avoid running to the line. There's one, this was running to an alarm, slipped and fell and got cut. Ouch. Ended up having to get stitches. This one was at Fresenius. So we just want to be careful. No running around. No horseplay. Now, horseplay, that means no horseplay at work. Take safety seriously. Now, I know, yeah, there's a time and a place for horseplay. Maybe at a family reunion in a park, right? There we can goof off, play around, have practical jokes, and chase our friends and our cousins and family reunion stuff. That's all fine at a park and a family reunion, but not at the workplace, okay? So just say no to horseplay on the job. So no running, no bullying, no chasing, no pushing, no goofing off, and no practical jokes. Respect and look out for your coworkers' safety. No horseplay, okay? Make that clear. All right, now we're going to move on to the next page. You should be on page 3 of your filling in the blanks, the levels of safety control. So our very best elimination is what you're going to write, very best elimination. That's removing a piece of machinery or step in the process. Well, yeah, that's going to be the best. If I can just take the whole machine out, now nobody's going to get hurt at all because there's no machine there to even get hurt by. But that's not always possible, right? We have to have the machine there to be able to make the dialyzer or to be able to make the solutions bags. So if it is possible, then yeah, it's the very best. Eliminate it altogether. Just remove that machine or that piece of the machine or the step. But that's not always feasible or practical. So we have then best engineering controls. So you write down best engineering controls on the next one. That's your physical means of controlling the hazards. Machine design. They might design the machine different since they couldn't remove it, right? Or they might put guards in place, or equipment, or tools, or ventilation and tight lighting. All this is the best engineering controls. Then you have next best, or administrative controls. Your next best process or administrative controls, that's going to be your training in specific work practices, the methods, the way you do the job to perform the task. They make sure they do that right and show it right. Employee hazard exposures, meaning you're not exposed to those hazards. And there needs to be job rotation. So that job rotation means you rotate from different areas throughout your shift. And then having periods away from the hazard, that means making sure you're taking breaks and enjoying your breaks and away from any hazards. And then we have the last line of defense, the worst level of safety control. That's your PPE, your personal protective equipment. So last line of defense is your PPE. That stands for personal protective equipment. That's going to be things like your safety glasses, your gloves, smocks, earplugs, shoes, boots, hats, and masks. Now that we're talking about levels of safety control and actual protective equipment, we'll talk a little bit more in depth about PPE. So management first assesses the workplace to determine if there's any hazards, and if there are any likely, then they'll need to see which type of PPE needs to be used. Once that proper PPE has been selected, then the employer must provide the training to each employee who is required to use the PPE. You'll be trained on it and how to use it. The PPE will protect the user every time that it is used properly. That means safety glasses, hard hats, earplugs. If I'm wearing them the proper way, you'll see a picture later on. There's a guy, he's wearing a hard hat, but it is not protecting his head. So you'll just have to see it. It's crazy. Same thing with safety glasses. If I have them up over my forehead, they're not protecting my eyes. I'm wearing them. They're on my forehead though, right? Same thing with earplugs. If they're worn loosely, they're not going to do the job. So PPE will protect the user every time it is used properly. Here we go with some more pictures. So this is an example of a face shield, a welding mask, and normal safety glasses. So eye protection is provided when there's hazards like the possible of impact of objects, dust or other flying particles, corrosive gases, vapors, or liquids, blood or other hazardous chemicals, and then there's always that intense light from welding or lasers. It has to meet this eye protection criteria. It must protect against specific hazards. It must be comfortable to wear. It must not restrict the vision or movement. And it must be durable and easy to clean and disinfect. It must not interfere with the function of other PPE. It must meet the Z87 standard. I went in my garage the other day and pulled out a safety glasses I had to trim some weeds, and I looked at them closely and I saw it had Z87 in the side of the safety glass. It was pretty awesome. So I know that I have the highest standard. Z87 standard is what we must have when we're wearing safety glasses. Okay, when we do eye protection, it needs to have metal or plastic safety frames. Most operations do require side shields, and then they need to be clear only unless a doctor orders differently. And they are used just for moderate impact against objects and particles. They're not going to protect you from a major impact. Goggles, those protect your eyes around from impact, dust, and splashes. Sometimes goggles fit over the corrective lenses. Out at Fresenius, we do not usually use goggles to cover the protective lenses, your corrective lenses. We actually have like this lady here in the middle. They're bigger safety glasses that go over your eyeglasses. So that's one of the solutions. So for employees who do wear prescription eyeglasses, the ordinary prescription glasses do not provide the required protection against the workplace hazards. So because they do not, Fresenius, when you become a Fresenius employee, they will provide $120 towards your prescription eyeglasses to make sure they have that protective lens. And then you can get that. Unfortunately for Elwood, we can't offer that. The Fresenius offers it just to their employees. But for the Elwood employees, we do have the other option. Again, the goggles that go over the corrective lenses, or like I said, the bigger safety glasses that go over the corrective lenses. So that's what you'd have to use if you have eyeglasses while out of Fresenius through Elwood. Okay, and then the goggles, like I said, just need to be behind. So here we go. This is some pictures of examples of why safety glasses are so important. Look at this guy with the grinding disc. He's lucky his eye didn't get cut out. He had safety glasses on, and it protected him from that moderate impact. Same thing with the nail. That second picture there, that nail went through. It was going right for that person's eye, I'm sure. The guy with the gray, I'm not sure if that's cement or paint, but he's very lucky he was wearing goggles that protected his eyes. So again, these are reasons why safety glasses and goggles are important. Here's another one, not so safe. I'm guessing he wasn't wearing safety glasses, or maybe he was. We'd have to ask Mont. He'd be able to tell us better detail here. Either way, that's a close call. He could have gotten his eye out with that nail. So when we wear a face shield, that is for a full face protection. That's going to protect against splashes, sprays, and hazardous liquids. But it is still limited protection from impact hazards. So we do have you wear safety glasses or goggles underneath if you're having to wear a face shield. Now, welding shields, they really don't have welders out at Fresenius. I've never really seen them unless they're construction people expanding the building, but that's pretty rare. And they do, just so you know, they protect against the radiant bright lights, sparks, and other metal hazard and spatter. But again, if you do have to be around any welding, make sure you have the right welding shield. Here we go. Here's the head protection I was telling you about. The guy's wearing the hard hat, but it's not even protecting his head, right? Isn't that just crazy? I guess that's his hair. It's protecting his hair, right? But not his head. Now the guy on the right, he is wearing the hard hat the correct way. It's protecting his head. Okay. Here's a couple more. Look at them. They're on motorcycles wearing their helmets on backwards. That's not going to protect their face and their head correctly if they're not wearing the helmet on the correct way. So head protection, those are going to be for injuries that could come from falling objects such as tools, bumping the head against maybe pipes or beams, or contact exposed with wiring, electrical components. And we got hand protection. When should hand protection be provided? Well, that's if you're going to be working anything that could be possible that you get burned, bruises, scrapes, cuts, punctures, fractures, amputations, or chemical exposures. So there's all kinds of different types of gloves available. So we want to just talk about those briefly. There's the cut gloves. Those are durable gloves made of metal mesh or Kevlar or nitrile or leather. They can protect you against cuts or burns. Then there's the fabric or coated fabric gloves. Those protect against dirt and abrasion. There's chemical and liquid resistant gloves. Those protect against burns, irritation. The insulating rubber gloves protect against blood or other burns. So here's some examples of the different kinds of gloves you might see. On the dialyzer lines, they normally use a latex glove, a heat-resistant latex glove. Some people are allergic to latex. If that's the case for you, they will provide nitrile gloves. On the fiber lines, they use the cut gloves. They have to cut those fiber bundles. But they also have sometimes where they wear the cotton lined gloves. Okay, and then there's the solutions. They mainly use the latex again or the nitrile. Same with the working in labs is latex or nitrile. And then the work in the yard is going to be leather or semi-leather. When cleaning bathrooms, they use the latex or the nitrile. Okay. So gloves, it is important we wear them because now we're going to see some examples of when gloves should have been worn. So burns, second degree burns. Let's see here. This was a needle nose pliers injury. Should have had the right gloves on. Ooh, using a knife to cut plastic pipe. Definitely a bad cut there. So these tools, our hands, they come with no spare parts. We need to see that yours last a lifetime, right? We got to be careful. Watch what we're doing. Wear the right gloves. This next picture, caution, it is a graphic chemical burn to the hand. So I warn you ahead of time, if you're not used to seeing these kind of graphic pictures, You want to make sure that you turn your head. I'll tell you when we get past it. So here we go. 1, 2, 3. So here's the chemical burn to the hand. Now this was not at Fresenius. They don't use this harsh of chemicals at Fresenius, but this is just to show you what can happen because the person didn't wear the proper gloves. Ouch, it totally destroyed their hand. It burnt right down through it. Very, very graphic. Very sad to see somebody have to go through that. Okay, for those of you that looked away or had your eyes closed, we went ahead and moved on. We're now onto a slide that shows body protection. So our smocks, our lab coats, shop coats, scrubs, aprons, shields. These are going to help us against intense heat, splashes from hot water and other liquids, impact from tools, machinery, or materials, from cuts or hazardous chemicals, also contact with infectious materials such as blood. So here's one. Look at this. Based on their gowning, what type of material do you think they're handling? Wow. They got suits on, gloves on, tape around the gloves and the legs, masks with oxygen respirators. So definitely they are all suited up and not wanting to breathe whatever hazardous chemical or whatever it is they are around. Then you have Mr. Man here, just in his shorts and t-shirt, no respirator, no oxygen. He is just way too close. I'm sure he's right exposed to whatever they don't want to be exposed to. So this is important. You know, sometimes I don't know if he's a boss or if he's a reporter. I mean, we don't know. But the main thing is if you see somebody coming into the clean room like this, you tell them to turn around and go back out. One, they could contaminate the product. Remember, we said that's the main reason we wear the protective clothing at Fresenius is to actually protect the product from contamination from us. But it's also for his safety, just like this guy should be in the proper equipment for his own personal safety too. Now we're going to talk about foot protection. So in the warehouse and the receiving areas, if you're driving a forklift receiving or you're in the warehouse packouts, those do require steel-toed shoes. Now, if you're just in the other production areas that I've talked about, so like just on the fibers lines, dialyzer lines, solutions fill rooms, or saline fill rooms, those ones do not require steel-toed shoes. Just closed-toed shoes, preferably slip-resistant, but just closed-toed, comfortable shoes is fine. Okay, so now we're going to talk about hearing protection for a minute and what that means. So our ears actually have a natural defense to normal loud noises up to 85 decibels. Now, if we hit 85 decibels or higher, then hearing protection must be provided to employees that are exposed at or above 85 over an 8-hour TWA. And you might ask, what is a TWA? Well, the TWA is the time weighted average. And when you go to purchase earplugs, they're going to have an NRR on the package. That's a noise reduction rating. That NRR will tell us, let's say, it says it reduces it 20 decibels. So if you're working around something that's at, 100 decibels, this one lowers it down 20. Well, now it's got you back down to 80, back down to that safe range. So it is important that we have the right hearing equipment. Out at Fresenius, they do have earplugs, canal caps, ear muffs. For the most part, out at Fresenius, we use the earplugs. Because we have the possibility of hearing damage, we want to make sure you're clear and understand that, not just being in a long time in a warehouse under noises could damage your hearing, but also loud music just in your cars can actually damage your hearing. Even a short, loud, or extremely loud, like a blast from a gunshot, that can rapidly harm your hearing unless it's you have hearing protection. So we want to make sure it's clear and you realize that, because you know what, hearing damage is actually permanent. And if you hear ever any ringing in the ears, that's actually even a sign of hearing damage. And so we want to make sure you know how to use earplugs in the correct way, because if you don't, you could get hearing damage. And so it's super important that for Fresenius, you wear the earplugs and you wear them the right way, because a loosely worn earplug will not protect you correctly. So the hearing protection, you want to grab the earplug and roll it into a very thin crease-free cylinder. You pull your ear outward and upward while you insert the earplug, and then you insert it all the way into the canal and hold it there until it begins to expand. So the ear canal entrance, you have the concha and the tragus. So if it's incorrect, it's just loosely put in there, not really covering a whole lot. But the correct way, if it is correct and inserted into the ear canal where it expanded while you held it there, then the outer edge of the plug should be flush or slightly inside the tragus, just like in this correct picture. So we want you to wear ear protection the proper way. Make sure that we're doing that. Okay, good job, guys, on that quiz. So we'll go ahead and go back to the filling in the blanks now. So the next question is, does anybody know what MSDS stands for? Anybody ever heard of MSDS before? Okay, that's okay if you haven't. So MSDS here is a picture of Mont, and he seems to think it stands for Mont Stevenson Does Safety. That's not true. I mean, it is true. Mont Stevenson does do safety, so I guess that is a true statement. Mont Stevenson does safety. But he's just being funny here. That's a picture of Mont, so if you see him out at Fresenius, there he is. But reality is MSDS really stands for Material Safety Data Sheets. So material safety data sheets are the way we know what chemicals are being used and what the hazards are with those chemicals. Maybe they have health hazards, or maybe they're flammable and fire hazards, or maybe they're reactive, or there's other special hazards we need to know about certain chemicals. And so this information on the material safety data sheet is going to give us the chemical, what it's made up of, how it's made, maybe even so the company information, who created that chemical, and all of those important information pieces to help us know what chemicals we're working with. And so you have the right to know about any chemicals that are used in your department. Let's say you're in the molding department working. There's one of these yellow binders you can find over in the molding area, and you can pull it out and see what chemicals are used in the molding area. This is going to even be as simple as maybe there's hand sanitizer and it's got alcohol in it. Well, that's a chemical being used. It should have its MSDS in that binder. Okay. So that's why there's these binders throughout the plant that you can find if you want to look, because you do have the right to know about any chemicals that you're using. Now, in these MSDS sheets are going to have what's called the NFPA diamond. That NFPA diamond is going to help you to know against any hazards associated with the chemical. So on your fill in the blanks, you'll see there's an arrow pointing to blue. So the blue diamond is for health hazards. So you can just write in the word health. The red is for flammability. The yellow is for reactivity or instability. And then the white is for special hazards. Now each one of these diamonds, the blue, the red, and the yellow, they have numbers with them from 0 to 4. So a 0, 1, 2, 3, or 4 tells us how dangerous from least to most dangerous. So if it's a 0, then it's no hazard, not dangerous. 1's ordinary, 2's slightly, 3 is now hazardous, and 4 is extreme danger. So it went from no hazard to extreme danger just from 0 to 4. So in this example, this one has a health effect of slightly, but it's extreme danger flammability, and even a 3 hazardous on reactivity or instability. So this diamond's pretty serious, pretty crazy if it's that flammable. Okay, when we look at flammable, 4 is extremely flammable. 3 ignites at normal temperatures, still pretty bad. 2 ignites when moderately heated, and then 1 must be preheated to burn even, and then 0 just will not burn. Okay. Reactivity may detonate, vacate area if materials are exposed by fire, strong shock for heat or may detonate, violent chemical or change possible on a 2. 1's unstable if heated, but normal precautions. 0's just normally stable. Health talks about how dangerous the health is. So when we look at the MSDS sheets, you're going to have 9 sections. on the MSDS sheet that's going to identify the product, the components, the chemical and physical characteristics, anything we need to know about the fire hazards, anything we need to know about the reactivity, not just the number, but more information, any health hazards and information, not just the number. Again, it'll tell us more details. And then the specific precautions or special precautions. And then shipping and labeling information from that manufacturer. Okay, so we have the MSDS sheets, and that's great, and they'll tell us what's in those chemicals and that being used. But guess what? Back a while ago, these chemicals weren't always labeled right. I mean, look at this one on the left. It says Butcher's Look Glass Cleaner. So it's a glass cleaner, right? I don't see an NFPA diamond on it. If I look really close at the bottom, I see NFPA and I see zeros, but that doesn't sound right. There's a 2, number 2, blue. I don't know if that's level number 2 glass cleaner or if that's actually talking about the NFPA diamond, blue for your health hazards. We really don't know. Same thing with these other ones. I mean, if you look at them, there is NFPA diamonds, but there's really not a whole lot of information just right there other than the numbers written in. Looks like they're handwritten in as far as flammability and health hazards and that. So what happens if a product's not labeled at all? Well, you do not use it. We don't know if that's alcohol, water, some other crazy chemical that we shouldn't even be near. We don't know. So we just would definitely not use it if you ran across any one of these at Fresenius. Especially a big old barrel. You're not going to catch me opening a barrel that's not labeled at all. We don't know if that's super hazardous to open. So this was, I was told, was an NFPA diamond on a paint thinner container. What do you guys think? Is that the correct NFPA diamond for a paint thinner container?
No.
No, right? It's got all zeros. Paint thinner is definitely a lot more flammable than a zero and health hazards. So this is the actual paint thinner container it was on, I was told. So it was labeled incorrectly, but luckily on the back there was more of the label. It did say danger, flammable, harmful or fatal. You know, all these things on there to tell you, yes, that's definitely more than zeros on that NFPA diamond. Okay. So when we're talking about this labeling, um, you know, they decided that this just wasn't being labeled correctly. A lot of labels around the world were different, they didn't match, and so they came out with what's called the GHS, or the Global Harmonized System. So the Global Harmonized System is actually fairly new. It's only been around for about 5 years in place. And so we might still have chemicals floating around that have that old MSDS system. And that's why we need to be aware of those and know what the NFPA diamond is and those labels and hazards and all that. But reality is the whole world is now using the GHS system for the most part. A lot of countries have adopted it. And so that means we're now all under a same, similar, uniform information system. And then now they don't call them MSDS sheets anymore. Now they're just called SDS, safety data sheets. The new ones, these new global harmonized system safety data sheets, now they have 16 sections. The 16 sections have a lot more information than the MSDS ever had. It doesn't only just identify and give us information and how it's composed and but it gives us first aid measures, firefighting measures, accidental release measures, handling and storage, exposure control and the right PPE, physical and chemical properties to building or activity if it's toxic, ecological information, disposal considerations, transportation, how to move it, and then regulatory information and other information. And they normally designate them with these signal words. So the signal words are going to be like danger, warning, or caution. So danger's red, the worst, right? Warning's orange, not as bad. And then caution, not very bad, but we still need to be cautious and watch out. So on some of the blanks up above, if you guys are not familiar, so a carcinogen is any substance which can cause cancer. It's called a carcinogen. Carcinogen is a substance that causes cancer. And then we'll look at the next one that says, if a chemical has acute health effects, you will feel it immediately. So acute means immediately. And then if a chemical has chronic health effects, you don't feel it until much later or after repeated exposure. So on these SDS sheets and on product labels, they've gone to using a red diamond. These red diamonds are called pictograms. Why? Because they have a picture in it. It tells us by just a picture what's going on. It doesn't matter if we're in Mexico or Russia or whatever country and whatever language that product's in, I'll know how dangerous it is by looking at these red pictograms. I'll know by seeing a skull and crossbones that that is acute toxicity. That means it's an immediate, severe toxic, and I want to stay away from that, right? And then there's the exclamation point. It's still acute, meaning it's going to be immediately toxic, but it's less severe. That might just be an irritant or a dermal sensitizer, but still, it's going to be an immediate effect. That's an acute toxicity. Now we can have skin corrosion, serious eye damage, or eye irritations. There's the carcinogens. That's when you know if it's going to cause cancer. That kind of product could cause cancer. Now, if I see a bomb, again, doesn't matter what language it's in, I see it's blowing up. That means it's explosive, right? Self-reacts or has organic peroxides. I had to see if I know flames. Anybody, doesn't matter what language that label's in, it's going to tell me that's flammable. I got to be extremely careful with flammables. Then you got gases under pressure or oxidizers. These are just a couple more. Now we'll go ahead and move on to fire prevention. So we're going to talk about fire extinguishers. So in fire extinguishers, there's different types of fires. So the main type of fire extinguisher used here at Fresenius is called the ABC fire extinguisher. So the main type of fire extinguisher is an ABC. That's because it puts out A, B, and C type fires. So in A type fires, they call it A for ash, is for paper, wood, and rags. Because when you burn paper, wood, and rags, it turns to ash. Now B stands for boils. That's for liquids, gas, oils, and grease. When you start burning liquids and gases and oils, you're going to get things boiling, right? And then C is for circuits. That's your energized electrical type fires. Okay, and then you have D, the dense. They are metals that can catch on fire. Magnesium is a kind of metal that can burn, catch on fire. So that's why you need a D-type fire extinguisher for that one. And they do exist. Here's an example of a D-type fire extinguisher. Now again, this one's only to put out metals type fires that are on fire. That's why at Fresenius we mainly use the ABC because that covers the 3 categories in one. And we don't ever use the fire extinguishers as a coat rack. I could be in a moment of panic running right past here. I wouldn't even see that there was a fire extinguisher there. So don't use the fire extinguishers as a coat rack. You never want to block them. The pathway should be clear to the extinguishers. Don't ever block them with boxes or materials. We don't ever want to block doors either. Look at that door and the pallets are blocked right in front of it. Either they can't get out or somebody can't get in if they're really needing to get in there for an emergency. So when we have a fire, there's a fire triangle. You have to have 3 things to have a fire. One is heat, air, and fuel. If you remove one of those 3 things, the fire will go out. So usually fire extinguishers escape all the oxygen of the room, and that puts the fire out real quick. If one is missing, then the fire will never start. So you got to have all 3, the heat, the air, and the fuel, or else that fire is not going to start. So if you do need to use a fire extinguisher while at Fresenius, you do want to make sure you follow the pass method. The pass method is P, you pull the pin, A, aim at the base of the fire. I'll give you a second to write. So P, pull the pin, A, aim at the base of the fire, S is for squeeze the handle, and the other S is for sweep back and forth. So if I come into a room and I'm flailing all around, up and down and around, that's not going to put the fire out. I have to follow the pass method for it to work. You want to pull the pin, aim at the base of the fire, squeeze the handle, and sweep side to side. Okay. Lockout tagout. So now we're going to talk about lockout tagout. So lockout tagout is the control of stored energy in a sequence of safety procedures used before working on any type of machine. Placements of the lock and tags is to isolate the device, ensure that it is not going to be used, can't be re-energized, until the locking device is removed. An energy isolating device is a mechanical device that physically prevents the transmission of the release of energy. So the purpose of lockout tagout is to prevent, again, that energy from accidentally being released to the machines or equipment that are being worked on and serviced. Excuse me, the phone call was trying to come through. The ultimate goal is obviously to protect the safety of the health of employees, and then the secondary goal is to prevent the actual damage from the equipment. So the hazardous energy sources, management does evaluate the machines and energy sources. They will deploy energy control plan to protect both the authorized and affected employees. Now, it's not always electrical. When we say, oh, we got to go lock and tag out that machine, it's not always just turning down electrical. That is probably one of the most common, but there are multiple sources of energy. It could be an electrical, mechanical, hydraulic, pneumatic, chemical, thermal, gas, water, steam, air, or even gravity. So sometimes things need to be locked and tagged out so they don't release that energy. We want to always look for energy sources. There may be more than one. Identify any secondary stored energy sources. So whatever that is, especially if it's electrical, can't be turned on. So the authorized employees, that's an individual who uses the lockout tagout procedure to be serviced. He identifies who will be affected. He communicates the intentions in advance, other lockout tagout activities, and then the time. He lets them know how long it'll be out, what the plan is. So the affected employees, that's the individuals whose jobs require him or her to operate the machines that are being serviced. And while they're under lockout tagout, they can't. So lockout tagout, the authorized are going to be very few employees. The affected are going to be most employees. And then the other individuals are your guests and vendors. Okay, so lockout devices, you never use someone else's lockout. You never use another person's, and make sure it must be identify the person who's locked it out. If you are not authorized and the lock does not have your name on it, just walk away. Removing a lock that's not yours is grounds for termination. Then there's tags. So sometimes there's tags, they're standardized for easy recognition, specific to each user's name. They may even have your picture on it. If you see a machine that has a tag on it, but it doesn't have a lock, so it's tagged out but not locked out, still do not operate. Okay. Now we're going to talk about accident reporting and investigation. Definitions, investigation, reporting, causation, prevention, and then the costs. So what is an accident? An unplanned or uncontrolled event that led up or could have led to injury to people, damage to property or plant or equipment, impairment to the environment, or some other loss to the company. You don't have to be unsafe. We want you to be safe. You have the legal right to say no to any request to perform an unsafe act or behavior. So again, don't be afraid to speak up. Okay, so you want to, again, report all accidents. We talked about this in the beginning. We're repeating it again. But this needs to be for everything, including a near miss. Even if it wasn't a true accident, but it was a near miss, it needs to be reported. Plant equipment damage, definitely report it. Any minor injuries that the nurse saw in-house, that'll be reported. Any OSHA recordables, stitches, prescription, restricted duty, or lost time. Okay, so we want to report all of them. When we do an investigation, the team may include the supervisor, the safety department, the manager, the director, maybe engineers, or even the witnesses. Most accidents are caused by lack of attention. They could have been preventable, or excessive speed. We just need to slow down, not give in to that pressure of production. And not following directions, right? Not asking other questions. Okay. So lack of attention, excessive speed, not following directions, and not asking questions. Now we're going to talk about some of the causes of fires. There was a tragic one in the King's Cross fire of 1987. 31 people died. This was the cause by poor housekeeping, discarded cigarettes. Somebody just threw out their cigarette. They didn't have the right firefighting equipment, no fire extinguishers. There was a lack of emergency training. People weren't trained, and therefore a very poor safety culture. 31 people died. Piper Alpha of 1988, 167 people died. This was caused by maintenance errors, inexperience. People weren't experienced right. They had poor maintenance procedures. There was some communication breakdown altogether, and they didn't have the permit to work on the system faults. The safety procedures just were not being practiced. So it's sad, 167 people died. Then you have the automotive supplier of 2011, one person died. This was due to a poor safety culture, lack of guarding, lack of training. And then you had the poor perception of risk, no safe systems at work, no risk assessment program, no effective accident investigation system, and no communication. So that is sad. Then you have the control measures. So this is how we prevent by having safety procedures and work instructions. Make sure you get the adequate training, effective communications, good housekeeping. We have guards and safety devices in place, warning signs, adequate warning, and working environment. We have the regular safety inspections, and then the risk assessment. Why do we need to prevent injuries? Well, one, your family is expecting you to come home, so we better prevent any injuries so you can come home each night. Your also personal well-being. It's good to make sure you're safe, and it's the right thing to do. Elwood and Fresenius make sure that our employees are safe. It's an investment in our employees. Of course, we're going to keep you guys safe and prevent injuries. And then there's always those legal reasons why we have to prevent injuries. Okay, cost of accidents now. So there is direct costs. These are medical bills, insurance costs, citations. But guess what? That's just the tip of the iceberg. Reality is there's a ton more indirect costs. I'm not going to read them all, but I'm going to point out a couple. So like just the travel time, HR time for replacement, damage to equipment, lost sales, investigation costs, legal costs. It just adds and adds and adds up. And so then all of a sudden these indirect costs are way more than the direct costs. So a head injury maybe cost $11,000 in doctor's bills. The indirect costs were $60,000. Wow, way more. An eye injury, again, $12,000 in doctor's bills, but then $66,900 for the eye exam in indirect cost. Just crazy. Again, I'm not going to read all of these. I'm just pointing out a few that is crazy. Okay. So what we do is to calculate the true cost of the accident is we add up those direct costs, find all the indirect costs that pertain, and we add those up, and then we divide by the profit margin percent. This will give us the future sales needed just to break even on that one accident. It's crazy to see. But we have an example of one here at Fresenius. This was in 2008, Fresenius Medical Care. There was an injury, a shoulder strain. The direct cost was $13,000 in doctor's bills. And then they had an indirect cost of $72,000. So if you add up the direct cost plus the indirect cost and divide that by 10%, if our profit margin was 10%, then we get the additional sales needed just to break even on that one accident was $852,150. That's crazy to think about, right? So we need you to ask yourself, is what I'm about to do safe for me and others around me? Look at these pictures. Again, these guys are on the back of trucks, no safety equipment or anything. Definitely they did not ask themselves if that was safe for them and others around them. This guy up on a crane driving a lawnmower, crazy, right? So you, the employee, are responsible for your own safety, the safety of others around you, for asking questions, for following the rules and laws, and making sure that you are thinking before acting. We make products here to help save lives like we've talked about since the beginning, so don't put yours in danger in the process. When it comes to safety, the person most responsible for my personal safety in this plant is me, and for you, it's you. So each person here is responsible for their own safety. So safety has to be first, and it has to be a way of life. All right, that was the last question there of the fill in the blanks. So let's go ahead and pull out our safety exam and we'll take that one together. Go ahead and pull out your safety exam. And you can put your name on it where it says employee number. You can put NA. And in, go ahead and sign and date, and we'll go ahead and take that exam right now. If you guys can take yourselves off of mute, we are to the safety exam. I'm ready to go, but I don't see any of you ready for me. Maybe you're still looking for the safety exam. So yep, safety exam, print your name, sign, take yourself off mute so we can all answer these questions together. Number 1 says, when should you report an accident or near miss?
Immediately.
Immediately. Yeah, B, immediately. Okay, number 2, who should you report your accident or near miss to?
Your supervisor.
Yeah, your supervisor. So those are number questions 1 and 2 right away. Who do you report the accident to? You do it immediately and you do it to the supervisor. Okay, good job. Number 3, PPE is an acronym that stands for?
D.
Yep, D, personal protective equipment. Good job. PPE protects the user.
C.
C, every time it's used properly, right? If we have that hard hat on covering our head, it will cover and protect our head. Not if it's just hanging off and covering our hair. That's not going to protect him. But yeah, every time it's used properly. Good job. Number 5, safety glasses are tested against what safety standard?
A.
A, the Z87 standard. Good job. 6, MSDS is an acronym that stands for?
D.
Yep, the material safety data sheets. Okay, number 7. This symbol to the right is called the, you guys remember what that symbol's called?
A.
A, the NFPA diamond. Good job. Now we're going to draw lines to match the colors. So whichever one matches blue. Do you guys remember what on the NFPA diamond is for blue?
Help.
Blue is for health. Good job. So you draw a line from blue down to health. Now red, what does the red stand for? Red, anybody? Fire, right? So we draw a line from blue down to health, red down to fire, yellow goes to
Reactivity.
reactivity. Good job. And then that leaves us just with white, which the only one left is what? Special. So draw a line from yellow up to reactivity and a line from white up to special. Okay, good job. Now we'll go on to number 9. The most common type of fire extinguisher used here at Fresenius is
B.
B.
the B. Yep, the ABC fire extinguisher, letter B. Good job. Number 10, using the method taught in class, draw a line matching the type of fire extinguisher to the type of fire it will put out. A, do you remember what types of fires are A-type fires?
Paper, wood, rags.
Yeah, so draw a line from A down to paper. Wood and rags. Okay, good job. B, what's the B-type fire?
Liquid.
Liquid, so draw a line down to liquids, gas, and oils. Okay, C, what type is a C-type fire?
Energized electrical.
Energized electrical. Good job. Number D or letter D type fire. D for dents, right? What can dent? The metals is what's left over. So D, just draw a line up to metals.
No.
Okay, number 11. What 3 things are needed for a fire to start?
C.
Yep, air, fuel, and heat. C is correct. 12. It's okay for me to remove someone else's lock on a machine if we are behind on production.
False.
False. False. Yeah, don't be removing anybody else's lock. Okay, number 13. Noise is measured in
Decibels.
decibels. Yep, decibels is correct. 14. What is the minimum noise level for which OSHA requires hearing protection? B, right? Somebody said B, 85. Good job. That is right. 85. Okay, number 15. On a package of hearing protection, what does the letters NRR stand for? Anybody remember?
Noise reduction rating. B.
Noise reduction rating B is correct. Okay, Steve just clocked out for work and is headed home for the weekend. While in the parking lot, Steve slips and falls, hurting his knee. What should Steve do?
D.
Yep, D, you come back inside, notify your supervisor, and then do the paperwork. Good job. D is correct. Number 17, when it comes to safety, the person most responsible for my personal safety is?
D.
Yep, D, or me. That's correct. Okay, number 18, lockout, tagout refers to?
A.
Yep, it does stand for A, the control of stored energy. Sequence safety procedures to use to work on any machine. Good job. Number 19, cell phones can be used.
D.
When can cell phones be used? Number 19, guys?
B.
Yeah, B's only in the break rooms and areas where the other than warehouse. Okay, number 20. The MSDS typically has all the following information except, what do you guys think? I forgot to cover this one in the actual slides. Do you guys, what do you think? What would the MSDS typically have? Everything but one thing.
D.
Yeah, the date that it was manufactured, because that's going to vary. Lots of times they're going to remake it and remake it and remake it, right? So we won't have the date the chemical is manufactured. That's right. D. Number 21, the question you ask yourself all throughout the day is, no, it's not, when is lunch?
D.
Yeah, D, is that what I'm about to do safe for me and others around me? 22, if you wanted to review or look up at a specific MSDS sheet, where would you look?
H.
Yep, that's in the yellow book marked MSDS. Good job. Okay, number 23, accidents are caused by?
All the above.
All of the above is correct. So E, yep, good job. Number 24, the cost of accidents includes direct costs plus indirect costs divided by the profit margin. This is what tells us the future sales needed just to break even.
True.
Yes, that is true. Okay, the questions you ask and how closely you follow the company rules will determine your success here at Fresenius.
True.
True. Yep, number 26, safety has to be a
C.
C, a way of life. That's exactly right. That was the very end there. We learned the way of life. Okay, back to the very beginning of this safety training. According to the environmental health and safety policy, what is our highest priority?
D.
Yep, the safety of every employee, and truly is. Fresenius is a very safely good-oriented company. Okay, guys, we made it through the safety quizzes. Now we are going to show you that information I was talking about earlier about taking your temperature and the daily questionnaire that you have to take. So give me just 1 second here. We'll get that up on the screen. There we go. Okay, everybody should see this. It just says Fresenius Medical Care GMQS COVID-19 Employee Self-Screening Attestation Statement. So it says, I agree that I will conduct personal health screening using the company-provided COVID-19 screening questionnaire prior to entering the medical facility worksite and reporting to work each day until further notice. So you need to make sure you guys are taking your temperature. Hopefully every one of you has a thermometer. If you don't have a thermometer or access to one, Fresenius has what's called Tempodots. It's a disposable thermometer. You put it under your tongue, checks your temperature, and then you throw it away. If you have a temperature of 100.0 or higher, then you're going to mark yes and not report to work. You'll contact your healthcare provider and you'll be in touch with your supervisor. Okay, if you have a temperature of less than 100.0, then you would go on to the next question, which let's show you down here. This is the actual COVID questionnaire. So it has where you can have your name, ID, today's date, temperature. Mine today, I checked it before I came in, was 97.6. And so you can put that, and then yes, sorry, no, I do not have a fever of 100 or more because mine was only 97.6. And then you ask this question. It's very lengthy, so I'm going to read the whole thing for you guys. It says, do you have one or more of the following symptoms? Cough, shortness of breath, or difficulty breathing, chills, repeated shaking with chills, unexplained muscle pain, headache, sore throat, new loss of taste or smell, congestion or runny nose, nausea or vomiting or diarrhea. So if you mark yes to any of those, then you again will call your supervisor, not come into work, but be expected to probably be out for a day, maybe up to 3 or 4 days, with the understanding that your supervisor needs to approve the COVID disaster pay, and then I can get it processed. Now, it is a separate process. It's not going to be paid on the exact same day that you normally get paid, because normally it takes a few days for them to give me that email to get it approved and get it processed. But you will get paid for the COVID-19 disaster pay. Okay, there is a cap of a max of 80 hours for that. Normally, a person's out for a week. We've paid that. I've had a few people that were out with COVID symptoms back in like June. They got paid 40 hours was the cap back then. Then they extended it to 80 hours. So then they got paid another 40 in September because they were out sick again. Now, both times they came back negative, their tests, actually the majority, almost everybody's comes back negative, but it's because, sometimes you got sick with the diarrhea or vomiting and it was food poisoning, right? Not COVID, but we still are taking those precautions. Fresenius is still willing to pay that up to 80 hours max cap for Elwood and Fresenius employees. So just understand that don't come to work sick. You'll call your supervisor, we'll figure it out. That first day will go unpaid, but then it should kick into the disaster pay where you get paid. Okay? Is there any questions about this COVID-19 questionnaire? Okay, we will be sending this to you in an email, so you have a copy of it, and we'll also send you it's called the map. It's actually technically not a map, it's more of a picture of Fresenius, but I'm going to pull that up now so that you guys can see the map. Okay, where'd the map go? Okay, so this is the map. It says 475 West 13th Street. Can you guys all see that? It's technically just a picture. It's an outdated picture. There's actually gates and fences now. So we've kind of written all over it, but it's getting us by for now until we can get an updated picture. So when you guys are coming to Fresenius, you'll want to come down 12th Street and turn onto Gibson. As a reference, there's a food place called the Pita Pit. You'll come down Gibson for 1 block to 13th Street. At that point, you can't miss us. There's a big, huge sign. It says Fresenius Medical Care. Visitors turn right, which you will do. You'll turn right, and now you're coming down 13th Street. That's the street right in front of us. As you're coming down 13th Street, you're going to see the parking lot, the fence, these big silver stacks that are at the top left of this picture. You'll see those. Those are for the fibers department. And as you get to the end of 13th Street, you want to turn right, not left. If you turn left where that guard shack is, there's a gate there. You can't get in. You don't have a badge. You won't be able to get through. You're just now bogging down traffic, and security's going to get upset. Why did you pull in there? Because you don't even have a badge. And there's nobody in that security shack, by the way. They are actually down around where reception is. So what we want you to do is turn right into the stall that says visitor parking. In visitor parking, there's along the fence visitor stalls, so you can park along the fence in those visitor stalls, walk across this crosswalk here, and then you will go to the gate and press the button. You'll say, I'm Matthew, I'm with Elwood Staffing, and I am here to get my badge. And they will ask you for your ID, so make sure you have your ID, and they will ask you maybe some COVID-19 questions, like if you have a fever or cough or sore throat or some of those questions. And then they'll allow you to come into the building. You'll walk down the sidewalk to reception, and that's where you'll meet up with me, and I'll get you your badge and your assignment sheet. Now, most of the areas out at Fresenius, before you can get your badge, we do have to have you take a vision test. So that vision test is just so they can see. You're going to be doing quality checks out at Fresenius for a lot of the different parts and things that you're looking at. They do quality checks, so you need to be able to see fairly well. If you have prescription eyeglasses, that's fine, as long as you can see well enough to pass the test, okay? With that being said, does anybody have any questions about how to get to Fresenius or how to get into the gate and talk to the security guard? Any questions so far? When you come out to get your badge, you will want to make sure you bring your ID and also either take a picture of your license plate or have it jotted down on a piece of paper. That's so we can get you a parking permit. A parking permit can be filled out when we get your badge and assignment sheet. Okay, guys, if there's not any other questions about that, how to get to Fresenius, about the daily questionnaire, we are just about to wrap up this class. So if everybody can pull out those pages that need to be filled out. That's the one that says, welcome to Fresenius Medical Care. It's kind of on its side, tobacco-free workplace and attendance policy. So that first day on the job, good manufacturing practices, guess what? That stuff we just went over about gowning procedures, wash your hands and no jewelry. You guys can start signing while I'm kind of talking about this. So sign at the bottom where it says sign signature of trainee, trainee's printed name, and then date. Employee number should already say NA. So just along the stars, go ahead and sign date and print. It's talking about no food or drinks in the clean rooms, only in the, not in the manufacturing areas. It talks about how the quality is very important. We strive to have 0 defects, and each employee is responsible. We talked about paperwork and completing it, documentation and blue or black ink, and checking your paperwork carefully, finding errors and fixing them. We talked about all of that information, so you guys are good to go ahead and print, sign, and date that one. The next one is the signature and initial identification page. I do need you to print your name as it legally is on your ID, and then date, signature, how you sign your paperwork, and then initials. We'll put your initials. That's how you'll be using on documents out at Fresenius. The next page is the pre-assessment checklist. And that one you will initial and date along those diagonal lines. That's just showing that you went and did all those instead of checking each one as complete, you'll just initial and date along those diagonal lines. And then at the bottom, sign, date, and print your name. This is things that we went over today, and or at the branch, they would have already done a drug screen, run a background check, and some of these other papers we're going through right now. Okay. The next one is leaving the workstation agreement. You want to print, sign, and date that one. It says, you understand if you leave your workstation or have to leave your workstation for any reason other than break or lunch, then you will notify your supervisor, technical specialist, or production specialist. If you leave without notifying them, then it could be treated as voluntary termination. So please, if you do need to leave your workstation, let somebody know. That's mainly all that's saying. And then the other one is the hourly policies included in this packet. Those are those hourly policies that we left that you are able to keep with you. You're just print, sign, and dating that we got those to you. And then the sexual harassment policy. This is the Fresenius Medical Care Sexual Harassment Policy. We would have had you watch the harassment and bullying video slideshow at the Elwood branch or at home, and this is just an extension to that. Like, all employees need to be aware of sexual harassment. If there is any harassment, we do not tolerate it. Any violations subject to disciplinary action. If there is any subject to harassment, please, you must report it to HR. If we don't know about it, we can't take care of it. So we do need to know. There will be an investigation thoroughly and find out if there's been policy violations, then appropriate actions are taken. There's always the fear of sharing or reporting in an HR type situation. Trust us, we will keep it confidential as long as you keep it confidential too. So don't be sharing anything that you've brought to our attention outside of the HR office, and neither will we. So that means you can be protected against retaliation as far as that is confidential. That means if somebody else comes up to you and says, hey, why did you turn Johnny in? He was just playing a joke, not, but he didn't mean to offend you or something. That's now retaliation. Somebody else told somebody that you talked to about that person to HR. Now that means they both could be terminated at that point for retaliation. So print, sign, and date that one, that you understand the sexual harassment policy. Then we'll talk about the Elwood Staffing Safety Policy. This is medications and in-house treatment. Employees are not allowed to offer or receive medication to or from other employees. This includes over-the-counter drugs, so no offering or taking of ibuprofen or Tylenol or any pills like that. The nurse, in-house nurse, she can give you a Tylenol or an ibuprofen, and she can give you medical advice. Other than that, you shouldn't be giving or taking medical advice or pills to other people. The second part of this safety policy is the post-accident incident care. If there is an incident, we'll have you seen by the nurse. If it's more serious than she can handle, we'll have you taken to an approved doctor. If you go to your own doctor for work-related injuries, then it's possible you could get disciplinary action for not following the rules. And if you go see your own doctor, it's possible that those charges could be your responsibility, not guaranteed under the coverage of workers' comp. So please, just if we need to get you to a doctor, let us get you to our approved doctor. That way Elwood pays for that if it's a work-related injury. Okay, so you put your name, sign, and date. You understand that. The next page is OIG government policy. This is a government check that we have to do on top of the background check that's already been ran. This one, you need to print your name, signed, full social, and date. I promise we will keep this file in your HR file only. We won't let this get out anywhere, but I do need your full social on that page for us to run the government OIG policy. So this is just an additional check. Very, very rare that anybody even ever comes up on it. But on occasion, it's because you're working in an FDA regulated facility. Certain people are excluded from being eligible to work in that kind of a facility. Okay, and then there's Fresenius Medical Care Employee Confidentiality and Assignment Agreement. Now, I'm not going to read this whole thing. You're welcome to read it after and then sign it after, but I will just give a brief summary that it's talking about that you understand that you will come across information while working out at Fresenius. That could be anything from reports or financial information to forecasts, their inventions, the machines that they made, and how they make the products. And that is all information that should not be shared outside of Fresenius. You're fine to learn about it and know and see all that information, but you shouldn't be sharing it. You need to keep it confidential. And that confidential information should not be no taking pictures, no filming, no sharing that outside of Fresenius. And if you do quit and leave Fresenius, they have the right to any inventions that you make in the next 2 years. So that would be, they would have rights to your invention. So that's important to understand. The other little piece of this is if you do have inventions, then we want to protect those before you get started. So after you've read through this, you can print, sign, and date it. And then that second or last page of this, the attachment A, most people do not have an invention they need protected. So we went ahead and put the word none for you. If that's the case, most people don't have inventions, so they leave the word none. They just draw a diagonal line down through all 3 columns, and they just do just one diagonal line across all 3 of them is fine, and initial and date it. And that means you filled in all those blanks. Now, if you do have an invention you need to protect, then you'll put a line through the word none, initial and date it, and then fill in information about your invention that needs to be protected. And then you'll print, sign, and date at the bottom. Okay. Is there any questions about those 11 pages? I just went over those fairly quick. Again, you can read through them a little bit more after we end this call. I just wanted to make sure we ended on time. So we are right at the 4-hour mark. So if you guys have any questions, now's the time to ask, or you can ask me again out at the time we get the badges. Okay. So if we don't have any other questions, and we've talked about the times you're meeting at 2:30, 3, or 3:30 today, then I'll see you guys out there with your paperwork. Please don't forget your paperwork and your ID. All right, we're good to go ahead and close up the call if there aren't any other questions. Okay, sounds good. Well, I'm excited to meet you guys and get you your badges and assignment sheets. We'll see you guys out there. Thanks for bearing with me and making it through these 4 hours. Like I said, you'll get paid for these orientation hours. And I hope you guys got a lot of information out of this and are now set up to be successful at Fresenius. And we'll get you started out there, okay? All right. Talk to you guys later.